Okay,
I hear Paula.
I hear Paula in there saying we're good now. Apologize about that, guys.
How's
Yeah.
it now? Okay,
Yeah.
yay!
They can hear now. They're saying it's fine now.
Perfect.
So we were talking about the thumbnail.
Recap. Yeah, thumbnail.
Recap. You're a pro at this.
Oh no.
So we met at volleyball and we had these great conversations, and then I'm saying it like everyone heard what we said.
Yeah.
And then
Met 2 years ago. Had a good conversation.
and kept having them. Found out that you have a degree in theology. And
Religious studies.
Religious studies.
Yes.
Same thing.
You think?
I don't know.
I think it's different.
That's good to get into. Let's get into that for a second. So anyway, whoever's upset with the thumbnail, they're probably not happy seeing, because a lot of my audience comes from a very religious background.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so,
that is, sorry.
No, it's fine. So finally, after 2 years, we've been planning on getting together, have this conversation as a podcast for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And then finally, we're like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it Wednesday. Bam. I need a thumbnail for the photo.
Right. Smile. In between volleyball games.
Yeah, in between volleyball games. I think you had just played 3 games.
Yeah.
And you were about to go play your next 3 because you had a doubleheader that night.
Yeah.
And you're like, here, take a photo. Just hold on. And so that's like, so that's real, guys. That's like this. It's real life. It's really how
time.
it is. All right.
Yeah. Volleyball life.
Now they're saying it's only on the right channel. I guess you're just gonna have to live with it. So over here, the settings show that it's on left and right. Maybe I can tell it to go mono. But anyway, I guess the right channel is better than no channel.
All gibberish to me.
Yeah. So some audio is better than none. Sorry about that. But so religious studies. What's the difference between religious studies and theology?
Right. So
from your perspective.
Yeah. So when I think about a degree in theology, you're coming from the point of all of these things about Jesus, God, et cetera, are fact, and you're just kind of learning about it. Whereas religious studies, you're kind of taught to be a skeptical scholar in a sense.
Right. So you're studying it the same way you might study like ancient Egyptian archaeology and
you're like, how do
mythology.
You know that? Where's the fact that I can prove X, Y, and Z happened? So, yeah, that's what I picture the differences to be.
So what prompted you to want to get a degree in that?
Yeah, so I started out at LSU. I dropped out. I was failing out because I just didn't like school. There was nothing that was like igniting my brain,
By the way, speaking of being at LSU, I got to tell everybody. Okay, I know Laura looks young. She's not a 6th grader.
No,
okay?
No, I could pass as one.
She's getting married next month.
Yeah, less than a month.
Getting married in a month.
Yeah. So
That's
exciting.
exciting.
It's so exciting.
To Adam, who he was going to be here if we did this tomorrow, but he can't be here today.
He's got to work.
Yeah, you could be 30 in 2 years.
Yeah.
So, like, this is a full-grown woman, all right?
I pay my taxes. I pay my car insurance.
Yeah.
I'm a full-ass adult.
Yeah. So religious studies. What prompted you to want to take religious studies?
Yeah, so I dropped out. I went back, and when I tell you, I just picked a class where I was like, I think I'll be interested in this, because my parents were like, just get a degree in something. I was like, okay, fine. So I take this, I was like begrudgingly going back to school, but I went back and took a Christianity class with this professor, and I was just like in awe the whole time, because I'd always heard these stories as factual. I'd only heard it from one side. Whereas listening to him, go through the material, I was like, this is a whole nother dimension to it I didn't even know existed,
Yeah.
And it just ignited me. And I remember going to his office to, like, check my study guide or whatever, and he was like, you should be a major. And I was like, you're right. So I was like, do you think I can do it? So he just,
you're right.
Yeah. And that's how it came to be, and it was literally the best decision. It opened my mind up in so many different ways than I could ever imagine.
I want to hear about that. I want to hear about how it opened your mind up. So, okay, let's say, how was it closed before that?
I think to think very one-dimensionally. And then studying religion, you think about it from all different aspects. So then I kind of looked at life in that way. From like 3-dimensional versus like 1-dimensional.
Okay.
And I learned to be more skeptic, to be like, well, why do I think that? Where's the proof in that? Where's da-da-da-da-da? It's not just like, yeah, because my mom told me that Jesus existed and that's it. Like, I'm like, who is this person?
So what did your mom tell you? What did you What were your presuppositions? Like you're raised in like a Christian.
Yeah,
you said
Methodist.
your mom was Methodist.
Yes.
Okay.
So my dad as well. It was a very loving, not super strict. Everything I learned about church and God was very positive. And I went to a private school, so pre-K through 12th grade. I was also, immersed in the world of Catholicism. So
how are you immersed in the world of Catholicism? Because were you in school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have like religion classes on top of your studies, and then you go to mass. In high school, we went to mass once a week.
Yeah.
So
you didn't. Was there like any kind of animosity or rivalry between the differences of the Methodists and the Catholics that you were going to school with, or?
Not, my mom would tell me, because, Catholicism, they kind of worship Mary, and they worship the saints. My mom would be like, don't do that,
Yeah.
Because we'd have ceremonies where we would pray the rosary or things like that for,
Right.
I can't remember, like, in May, maybe it's the Immaculate Conception. And so we had this big, like, mass and pretty much worshiping Mary, and my mom was like, don't do that. But that was the only thing that...
So did that bother you, or you're just like, oh, this is what we're all doing?
I was like a fourth grader. I was like, okay, I don't care. They were different. Not that I ever felt outcasted, but, I couldn't do things like take the Eucharist or whatever, and it was kind of obvious that I was separated from the kids that were Catholic.
Yeah.
But I never took it as like, oh, they're right and I'm wrong, or I'm bad or whatever. But, there was like a little bit of distance between the two.
So when I was raised Baptist.
Right.
And it was, there's no way on God's green earth that my parents would put me in a Catholic school.
Okay, I know. I thought, the more I think about it, I'm like, you're so... Because I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I think I want to be Catholic. You would have thought, I would have told her I was like, I don't know. But, and so now the older I get, I'm like, the fact you put me in Catholic school is kind of surprising. But I think they just wanted me to get a nice education.
So, like today, okay, if I had a choice to put my kids in various different schools, and the Catholic school was really good for education, I'd be okay with that. I could put my kid in Catholic school. I really wouldn't care today. With the way I was raised, my parents would not just my parents, but like the zeitgeist of the whole Baptists. I mean, Baptists and Catholics were mortal enemies.
Yeah.
And they were constantly arguing, constantly fussing.
Yeah.
And so the idea of saying you worship Mary, that would be like a big pejorative kind of thing.
Right.
That Baptists would say.
Yeah.
And we would just always tell them how they were wrong. And so, we would consider Catholics like lost and needed to be evangelized.
Yeah.
Because they were going to hell because they were trusting in their works and not Christ, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was like this big divide.
Is that kind of like the core difference? I mean, of course, there's so many different small, but if you could pick one thing that's kind of conflicting in the two.
So, okay, that's actually a loaded question, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I think how deep do I want to go with this? Like in the mature versions of Catholicism, I think that it's not so. It's what we call what has become is everything has become propositionally reductive. In other words, I don't know if you like we talk on this channel. We talk about the four kinds of knowing.
Right.
And so, if you go to take a job interview or fill out an application, they're going to ask you how much experience do you have, right? Because you can lie on your resume, you can say all these words, right? You can say, "Oh, I am been the CEO of Apple," and and I have a degree, I have a doctorate degree in everything. You could say that, but they're going to ask you how much experience you've had because they want what you say to match some kind of the other three kinds of knowing. Because propositional is just what you say.
Yeah.
If I say humans are mammals, that's a proposition. And the only reason that means anything is because we agree on what humans are and what mammals are, right?
Right.
But if I say that I've had 10 years of experience working in cybersecurity, then I'm talking about procedural, perspectival, and participatory knowing. And that's really what matters. So that's what the job wants to have. So I think after the Reformation or during the Reformation, it caused the Protestants who came out of the Reformation and the Catholics all to go propositional, if that makes sense. So before, Catholicism maybe there were some branches of it that weren't so propositionally reductive. In other words, instead of getting you to believe certain things, I need you to believe this about Mary, I need you to believe this about Jesus, I need you to believe this about the transubstantiation, whatever it is, it's more like, how can we make Laura a wise person? That would be the quest.
Yeah.
And what is believed isn't so important. So then the Reformation comes along, and we lose all that. We lose the quest to make a Laura a better person, and we now have the quest to let's write down all the truths correctly.
Yeah.
Which is a completely different line of reasoning.
Yeah.
So if the Catholics are trying to write down all the truths correctly, and the Baptists are trying to write down all the truths correctly in one of those, like I have the systematic theology books up there on the shelf, if we're trying to produce the correct systematic theology, then yes, the answer to your question would be that Catholics have propositions that center around doing works and sacraments and things like that,
Right.
whereas Baptists are all like, it's the imputed righteousness of Jesus Christ. Now, I'm of the opinion that whole enterprise is not the right thing to do.
A Baptist?
Well, Baptist, Catholic, like the
Yeah.
propositionally reductive versions of them. Because they don't really help anybody.
Yeah.
What are they doing for people? Okay, you've got this book full of correct knowledge.
Yeah.
Can you hit a volleyball? Or
Yeah.
can you be kind?
Yeah.
Can you have a good interaction with somebody who might be your spouse and maybe not get divorced? Can you interact with your kids in a way that doesn't traumatize them? Maybe we ought to be concerned with being able to do those things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I think that mature religion would help you be able to do those things, at least as a fruit of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's kind of what we were talking about earlier, where you find a lot, and I don't want to like group in Christians all together.
You can.
But I mean, not really, but like you find those are the most judgmental people, because they're following those strict, like, well, you can't do this, and this, because this is going to happen to you. It's like, if Jesus' teachings are true, that is the complete opposite of what he's trying to, his primary goal.
The guy who said, turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
Guy who said, forgive your enemies, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you.
Yeah.
And in his name, we're going to have the Spanish Inquisition, and we're going to burn people at the stake, and we're going to kill witches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad for people outside of the church who have never been raised in the church, and they think that about the Christian church or Christians, where they're like, they're just the most judgmental people. It's like, yeah, we're humans, we make mistakes, but that shouldn't deter you from doing your own research to get closer to Jesus, or becoming a part of a church and whatnot. But
somebody, I've been looking for like an elevator speech for this channel.
Yeah.
And my buddy Rick, he helped me devise one, and I'm like, okay. And then somebody asked me the other day, like, what's your YouTube channel? What's it about?
Yeah.
And what came out of my mouth, I said, well, we're trying to help people from a Christian background become less judgmental and more loving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Why are Christians the ones struggling with that? I realized what I just said.
Yeah. Light bulb.
We're supposed to be following Christ. Why are we the ones that need help with this?
Yeah.
Why are we so judgmental?
I know. And it's a good question. It's human nature. I find myself being judgmental, obviously not in ways.
So, in what ways though? Like,
I think maybe it's my own self-protection of like, if someone, and I don't want to say like putting people down in my mind, but if I see someone can perform better in a certain way, I want to like make myself feel, it's like self-preservation. I'm like, well, I want to be better than that person, and they do this wrong, but I do this better, And then I catch myself.
So is it a
like,
perception thing, like how you want to be perceived, or is it like really how you are thing?
I think how I want to be perceived, and I get very judgmental about that, especially when it comes to volleyball. I'm so serious. It's like,
speaking of,
I
should show this photo. Like, you just won a tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were there. What, Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and you just won a tournament.
It doesn't get old. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been, playing for 2 years.
So you're kicking butt and taking names, yeah.
Well, now, I don't know. We'll see.
No, that was great.
It was so fun. It was a wonderful day.
I never really paid really close attention to you playing, because I was always playing King of the Beach, and you're playing Queen of the Beach over there with Paula. Yeah, it's the women, that's the men.
Yeah.
playing with Paul Abel, right? And
Beautiful bride.
I kind of always thought of you as a new player. And then
Yeah.
like Saturday, I'm actually watching you and Brene. Of course, you wind up playing against Paula and
Yeah.
Caitlin then too. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like you winning the tournament.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I actually, Long, sorry, this is such
Yeah.
an offshot, but we do private lessons once a week, and
Oh.
that has helped
Yeah.
tremendously. Just like tweaking things and learning your shots and everything. But that's really, really helped too. And
Yeah.
just doing doubles. Like, I hate
Yeah.
quads.
Yeah.
Just, you don't really learn, I mean, you learn, but not in like,
So you and Long. So
Yeah.
Long's really good.
oh yeah. And James. Him and James are the ones that kind of help us out.
Yeah,
You know
James.
James?
Yeah, I know James.
I don't even know
He-
his last name.
I don't either, but he last time
Yes, he
he
always
wore the
has the
dark
eye
circle.
blacks.
None of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, James is great.
Yeah.
James,
Oh my
James
gosh.
is super nice.
He never
And he's really
misses.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's so good.
So if you got
So good.
yeah, if you're learning from him, and so
Yeah.
let's combine the two
Yes.
threads.
I feel like I painted myself in a really bad light, but the way that I want to be perceived, it's like if I see other people perceiving another person in a great light, I'm like, it's almost like a little panic. I'm like, I want to be perceived in that good light, so I'm going to tear this person down in my mind to kind of make myself feel better,
So that
Does that
comes
make sense?
into but
Yeah.
so that comes into like shadow work. See, this happens in
Right,
Christianity
Carl
a lot.
Jung
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, Carl Jung stuff. So in other
Yeah.
words, when you are casting other people down for what you don't like in them, that's probably
Pretty bad.
part
I
of your
shouldn't say
own
this
shadow.
to the internet.
No, it's
yeah.
fine.
I
No.
mean, it's true, It's
No,
like,
you have an honest assessment of yourself. You're not. That's exactly what people, especially people who call themselves Christians,
Yeah.
should be able to have an honest assessment of
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing there is a good practice to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So and people tend to project their shadow onto other people.
Yeah.
And so if you're in the religious realm,
Absolutely.
so if you're in volleyball, it's one thing. It's like, oh, I just want to be better. And it's not really seen as a moral thing.
Right.
It's like a skill level thing.
Yeah.
But in the religious realm, people are virtue signaling what they want to be. And in order to garner more perceived virtue from themselves, they can derail somebody else or like cancel them, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
There was a famous Christian. We just did a video not long ago where like somebody named John MacArthur was really bashing Alistair Begg for telling a grandmother to go to her transgender grandson's wedding, And so it's easy to cast him as immoral
Right.
to hide, he's projecting his
Yeah.
own shadow.
Yeah.
We see it all the time.
Absolutely.
And
That's
so,
a good point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's how we know what's in that guy's shadow.
Yeah.
Is what he projects onto other people.
And it also helps you to if we are going to love people like Jesus loved us, or so the Bible says. But it's like, okay, I can look at that person and say, that's not the best quality, but I'm going to choose to love you and see that that's your humanness, Does that make sense?
It does. Makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I'm
I'm like, I've never been on a podcast. I'm like, am I saying the wrong thing?
no, I just have, I want to draw some parallels here.
Yes. Go ahead.
So you use the word love,
Yes.
and that's an action,
Yes.
right? It's not a belief. Mm-hmm. It's a set of actions. It's, in other words, it's not an affirmation of a set of facts.
Right.
When I say belief, like the word actually comes from like a beloved, loving commitment towards something, like a labor of love, you might say.
Yeah.
That really captures the word believe as we see it in the Bible better than how we say believe to affirm a fact claim.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So let's take the word love and it's an action. Let's take volleyball, right? So you're working with, say, Long and James, and what do you learn? You're learning actions,
Yeah.
right? So what I'm concerned with in Christianity, if we use,
Yeah.
I mean, Long and James have no idea they're being mentioned on this podcast.
I thought that.
Like-
I was like,
Where is the Long and the James of Christianity? You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
So my contention is that really there aren't any or aren't many.
Yes. Yeah.
There aren't any, like, it's like, okay, so let's draw a connection. You got Long and James who are playing volleyball well, and they're winning, and they're doing things you want to do, right?
Yeah.
What if there's a guy sitting on the sidelines who knew all the facts but could not get on the court and play?
Yeah.
would you care?
No.
You probably wouldn't care.
I would not listen to them.
That volleyball is made of leather.
Yeah.
That one's a fake one, and that was a double handset.
You know what this
you
is?
show me your handset. Oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, in the Christianity, there's no. That's what Christianity is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a guy sitting on the side who they have everything boiled down to the truth claims,
Yeah.
but they can't get actually out there and actually do it.
Yes. Yeah.
And they can sit there and criticize. Oh, he doubled that. You know. Well, get out there and show me you doing
Yeah.
it, buddy.
Yeah.
That's actually hard to do.
Yeah. Handsets are hard.
Yeah. And so that's the problem with Christianity is that
Yeah.
there's no action to it. So when you
Yeah.
think, you use the word, anyway, you were going to say something a second ago.
Well, no. Remember how I was telling you that woman I've known my whole life?
Yes.
Yes,
Her name
her name is
she's in
Liz.
Late Charles.
Yes.
And her name is Liz.
She is the epitome of what a Christian should be. And she, like, I've learned from her through action my whole life,
So how long have you known her?
since I was 4.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was always like, the Lord told me to love you, which was very sweet. She's always been in my life. She's always been that guidepost for me. If I couldn't talk to my mom about something and I was really lost morally or whatever, I'd talk to her. She's just the least judgmental. She really is just what a true Christian should be,
So can you enumerate any more characteristics?
Yeah,
of this Liz?
I'm trying to give I'm trying to think like a situation. I don't know. Give me I'm trying to think of I think she does a lot of labor of love type things. Like she's definitely of service to her community.
Mm-hmm.
She, I don't know. I'm kind of blanking.
We can get controversial. You want to get controversial?
I would love to get controversial.
I've been dealing with people lately. One of the problems in Christianity.
What are the comments?
Oh, Roberta's in there. She's gonna take care of the comments if they get out of hand.
What are they saying?
I don't know. I'm not.
I can't
gonna
read
look
that
at them.
far.
They're gonna be fine. Where were we? What was I saying?
Oh, controversial.
Oh,
with
controversial.
Yeah.
So, I came up in church situations where we ostracized people who are different than the moral mold for how you should be with regard to gender and sexuality.
Right.
So in the Baptist church, the ones that I've been in, there's no place for people who are struggling with same-sex attraction. There's no place for them, right?
That's crazy.
And so I'm talking to this guy. There's this guy who is a viewer of the channel,
Mm-hmm.
and he, I'm trying not to give too much information because this is, a private conversation.
Yeah.
But he's had same-sex attraction since he was 7.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is there no place? And he's struggling with it. So he's basically felt like God didn't like him. God didn't want him.
Yeah.
Like he sees being hetero and having hetero desires as being what God wants. And so he has striven for this all of his life.
Yeah.
To the point where he got married to a woman, and it just wasn't amazing. She eventually passed away, but they had a great friendship, great connection, but he's just never been able to fix himself. He's tried all the conversion therapies, tried all the things, and this guy loves Jesus more than anybody I know, or at least as much as anybody I know,
Yeah.
And so why do we have no place for these guys? He didn't ask for that,
Right. Absolutely.
So why are we so morally condemning of this? So, where was Liz on this?
So I think if this man went to Liz's church, she would welcome you with open arms to say, if this is something you struggle with, if this is something you want to fix, that's awesome. Here's my opinion of it, but I'm still going to love you no matter what, and I want you to come to church every day. I think she would extend. Now I'm like, am I using the word love right? But am I loving this person the way that Jesus would love this person?
Right.
Of course she has her ideals of, I guess, heterosexual relationships are what God pleases, but I think she would not turn away this person. Right. I think she would, help them and mentor them, but definitely not ostracize them.
Yeah, I think there's a deficit in the institutional church because individually I can work with an individual, and that's what I think we should be doing. Is that we're all like our buddy Doug. Doug is like he's a therapist. He comes on the channel sometimes.
Yeah.
He's been practicing for 40 years, and he says this phrase. I forget what he used. We're all just. I think I called myself a moron one time, and he said we're all just morons walking each other home.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that.
You know?
Yeah.
And I can't remember what word it was, but it was whatever word I said, he used the same word and said, we're all just walking each other home.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to, we're all here on this planet, if I encounter somebody else, no matter where they are on the spectrum of anything, anything from autism to gender, like maybe we can interact in a way where we help each other reach the next rung on our ladder of transformation.
Absolutely.
Like no matter what that is. And I don't know what that is for them.
Yeah.
But if I do so from the standpoint of being embedded in a church, now I have to look at the official policies of the church and whether or not this is allowed. Is this am I allowed to help this person transform? Am I allowed to help this person reach their goals and strive for what's next for them? Or are they taboo? We're not allowed to help them.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, why is this? I mean, if you look at it as sin, which is what these institutions are. Yeah. Why is that sin so taboo? Or, I mean, it's sexuality, sex. That's like such a big topic. But it's like, answered my own question. But I think it's like, we all sin in our own ways. Why is that specific sin going to be ostracized? You know what I mean? Like we all have our own indwelling sin. We all have something we struggle with. I struggle with being judgmental. Is someone gonna like ostracize me in church for that instead of?
We're going to after this.
Walk me, please don't. I've exposed a lot more.
Now that we know this is like confession, and you're about to be buried for everything you've said.
Crucify me. But no, but really, it's just yeah. I think it's. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. No, I'm a little nervous, to be honest.
No, it's fine. But there are, the fundamentals have answers for all these things.
Yes.
Oh, we're serious about this because of this. And so what they did when in the Baptist realm, and from Paula's background, there was some of this in the Assemblies of God, and there's some other denominations that do something very similar. There's such an emphasis on this whole sexuality thing and how people should dress and what they should wear and what they shouldn't look at and all this, that there's so much emphasis on that what it does is it kind of foregrounds it in your mind all the time. Right? So now I hear 13 sermons this month about, not looking and lusting after women. I can't go to the mall and pick out a pair of shoes because I'm just so, you see those yoga pants.
All the time. Yeah. The yoga pants.
It's just,
absolutely.
And so then they're just fixated, just absolutely, what's the word? Obsessed. They become like this low-key shadow obsessed with what's taboo.
Yeah.
And then you'll find that they're constantly, that's what they get on everybody else's case for. Probably because it's their biggest problem.
Yeah. Like you think are you saying like people who ostracize?
Well, the people who yell the loudest against the sexual sins probably have the biggest sexual demons.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
That's what I've seen in my experience to be the case.
Yeah. In your Baptist.
Yeah.
When you were a pastor.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
Yeah, well, not just being a pastor, but growing up too.
Yeah.
As a kid.
Yeah. So you grew up Baptist?
Grew up Baptist.
Fundamental Baptist.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that. So that kind of like was a. What made you want to be a pastor?
Well, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Well, it's just I've always been interested in helping people.
Yeah.
Helping people find answers, helping people solve their problems or that sort of thing. And if I'm honest, from the early ages and stuff, there's probably like a spectrum of narcissism, wanting to have the spotlight on you, wanting to be the guy doing the talking, wanting to be seen as the guy with the answer who has it all together,
Yeah.
And so
that's a good observation. I mean, you see that in all these.
Yeah.
What do they call them? Televangelists.
Yeah.
They're like, you're just doing this for the I mean, not all of them, but
And so I've never been in a situation where there was any money in it.
Right.
I mean, they would pay you, but Baptists don't pay people very well, So it's never been about the money.
Right.
It's so as far as this televangelist stuff, but to be the guy that has the answers and has the pulpit and everybody comes to listen to you every Sunday, there's something that feeds the ego about that.
Yeah.
There's like a dopaminergic hit for that.
Totally.
And so I would probably be lying if I tried to say that every motivation to be a pastor was clean and pure as the wind-driven snow.
Yeah. Yeah. We're still human. It's like...
But there is this, I was absolutely convinced that people are going to hell without Jesus.
Yeah.
And we got to do something about it.
Where do you stand on that now?
What a question.
I know. I was thinking about it on the way over here. I was like, I feel like 2 years ago, the first time we talked, I knew, because I asked you, I was like, do you think Jesus is real? Because I was always in my, as I still am, always in my own religious, like, confusion, you know? But I don't think since then we've ever, touched on it.
So, let me...
Is that a weird...
I feel like you're interviewing me now.
No, I mean...
No, which is great. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, no,
You're more interesting than me.
I doubt it.
I'm really thirsty. Hang on. What are you looking at?
I have books up there that I usually wave around when I talk, and so I just keep looking at them. It's nothing...
I thought you were like looking at like a bug or something.
No, I had dreams about bugs last night. So, here's what I've come to realize. Okay. I'll talk to an email. I'll tell you about an email I got today. As a matter of fact, we started talking about this in the kitchen. I got an email. I either got it today or yesterday, and I just burped up like air of coffee. Anyway,
couldn't tell.
That's why we got the fan on in case it comes that way. I just got an email from somebody today, and they're afraid I'm getting into mysticism because the last video that I did, I was telling people to meditate in a way that clears your mind until you have an awakening of some kind, like some kind of insight, some kind of new way to see things that helps you live your life better. Could be small, could be big. And then after you have that awakening or that insight or that new seeing, you contemplate that. So now you're doing two things. You're meditating to clear the mind, clear the monkey mind, control your mind, and disabuse yourself of anything that you're holding on to that you don't need. And then also contemplate on this new thing that you saw and work on seeing that everywhere, Yeah. And so, but the word contemplate is a big demon with the fundamentalists because there's something called contemplative prayer that they've all been taught is the devil. So just the word contemplative. Oh, you're a new age. You're a mystic. You're all. There's like a million wrong things that you are for certain buzzwords that you say. So this guy sends me an email. He's like, I love your content on this stuff, like against Calvinism and this sort of stuff, but I heard you use the word contemplation the other day, and that contemplative prayer is really dangerous, and I just want to warn you to stay away from that because it can really hurt you.
Oh.
And in my mind, here's what I'm thinking. I'm like, right now, with what I'm into now, my life is great. I have conversations like this all the time. Yeah. You see the house.
Beautiful life.
It's wonderful.
Bride.
You see us at volleyball.
Yeah.
Me and Paula are in love.
Yeah.
We are living a wonderful, beautiful life. It's just so fantastic. And we have...
It is.
Life is a series of encounters. And we're having... I have great encounters all the time with Paula and with everybody else. It's a wonderful, beautiful life. That's what my life is like now. It's just this beautiful... It's like... It's the heaven of my past.
Yeah.
I just didn't... So I didn't die to go to heaven, but I had some ego deaths.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Oh, yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
To come to this heaven.
Yeah.
And so I wrote him back, and I'm like, you're warning me about this stuff. Come this way a little bit.
I don't know why I scooted it so.
I think we're going to lose you. I don't know if my breath is bad and you're just backing up.
It's terrible.
So I said, you're warning me against this thing that's so dangerous. But when I was believing the way you're believing, I flushed my family down the toilet. I lost my marriage. My oldest two kids don't talk to me. You know what I mean? And a lot of my friends who are like of the independent Baptist background that I came from, they're dead now by their own hand, many of them.
Yeah.
And then many of them have very messed up lives. And so my not only my immediate family that I had before, but and I'm not trying to give you a sob story.
No, but
like,
I mean, it's I didn't know all this.
And then
you know?
my family beyond that, like
Mm-hmm.
my brother passed away. His kids aren't doing
I didn't know
amazing.
that.
He died back in 2010. And that marriage was rough and rocky, you know.
Yeah.
And my parents got divorced. My sister and her husband kind of looked back on how we were all raised with a rightful amount of resentment because
Yeah.
it's provided some difficulties and struggles to overcome.
Absolutely.
And so there's dysfunction everywhere you look.
Yeah.
So I want to tell this guy, like,
Totally.
where were you 25 years ago to warn me about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I need to be warned against.
Yeah.
I don't need to be warned against this. This is great. You know, I feel like Christ is living in and through and all around me right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And
That's
I
so
feel
beautiful.
like that stuff was dangerous and caused a lot of harm.
Yeah.
Where were they when I needed to be warned of that? I could have really used a warning about Christian fundamentalism and all of its dangers when I was 20.
Yeah.
It was 25 years ago. I really could have used that.
Yeah.
I never got that warning.
Yeah.
When I would spew off ideologically, people would just say amen.
Yeah.
So I guess to answer your question, what I'm trying to do is get at is I've realized that the version of Christianity that I came from, we were so focused on the afterlife
Yeah.
that we systematically became really terrible about living this life. We're just doing a bad job of living this
Yeah.
life. We're not doing well at all.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm not necessarily speaking against or refuting ideas of heaven and hell and the afterlife, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But I do think that there are proverbial heavens and hells that you can have in this life.
Absolutely.
Like I feel like the life that I'm living right now is a proverbial heaven compared to
Yeah.
what I came from.
Yes.
And in the time of when I was a fundamentalist, I had all the answers, doing all the right things, but it's just dark. I look back on it, it's
Yeah.
just dark.
Yeah.
You know?
You think there's no room for you to kind of like have your, and I don't want to say true self, but I mean, you kind of have to put yourself in this box to conform
Right.
to these ideas. And it's funny you say that because me thinking of my life before Adam, post Adam, you know, I felt that. I was like, it's dark, it's weird, it's, you know.
Adam being the guy you're going to
Yes,
get married to.
my fiance.
Just FYI.
But it made me think about, we've been living together for almost 4 years now. You know, my mom had such a hard time with that, obviously, because premarital sex, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm like, Mom, I'm the happiest I've ever been. Where's the harm in that? You
Yeah.
know? And I would tell her that. I'm like, what's so wrong about that? I don't get that, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, I know that you had premarital sex. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. But it's like, why am I going to go to hell for that, or am going to spoil my life because I did that?
Uh-huh.
You know? It's like, I don't know. So like you were saying, it was like I was living, now I feel like I'm living in heaven, kind of what you say.
Yeah.
You know?
And so, I mean, there's so many things that prompts me to want to say and get into. That one of the reasons I enjoy having conversations with you, and thought it'd be good to have this conversation, is because, and by the way, that what you just said is going to get you eaten alive by some of these fools.
Oh no, I don't know.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Audience.
No, you're.
Well, I can't really read that, so that's
Good, that's
good.
fine.
I don't have my glasses on.
Yeah, you don't
like,
need to anyway. It's there's no hate like Christian love, right?
You need that on a T-shirt.
Well, I got that from Tyler Fontenot. I shouldn't have said his name. I got that from.
He doesn't exist.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
doesn't
know who that
exist.
is.
He's not a real. He's not. You don't know
Yeah,
who that is?
it's your
Yeah.
imaginary friend. Is who it
Anyway,
is.
he says he's an atheist. We play guitars together all the time. You know, well, whenever we can. We have a difficult
Yeah.
time getting together lately. But like we're friends. We play volleyball together. Play guitar.
He
hang
plays
out.
volleyball.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. You know
do you
him.
think?
So.
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
Yeah.
he's the one that said there's no hate like Christian love.
I love that. You should ask it. Well, you could put dash Tyler.
Yeah,
You know.
Tyler.
Sorry, dash anonymous.
But well, after I looked this up later, found out that it's a thing. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people say
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's just the first person I heard it from.
Yeah, I love that.
So what was I talking? Yeah. So anyway, you have this. There's like this brightness to you. There's like a.
Thank you.
It seems like other people they have, whether it's resentment, whether there's a burden, something holding them down, whether they're just the vicissitudes of the adult life are just weighing them. It's like you're just like bright and happy and no resentment, and like you're just like this little spark of flowering energy.
So nice. I have resentment. Don't worry.
But so there's something that's genuine and authentic and just comes out.
Yeah.
I say this about Paul. It reminds me a lot of Paul. I tell Paula all the time. I tell Paul Abel all the time. He's such a 9-year-old, and I don't
feel like that.
I don't mean she's childish, but childlike.
Yes, no, I know exactly what you mean.
Like in a good way.
Yeah.
Like a fun, young, authentic, playful way where you're just being yourself and it just comes out. You have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Just here it is. Bam.
Yeah. I love that. And it's funny because I think in my early college years, I think it got me into some trouble. You know, it rubbed against people who were trying to maybe live the more mature way, be like more adultish. And I was just this very childlike, carefree, just get myself into crazy situations because I'm just like, I'm living life. I love life. And so it definitely rubbed people the wrong way. But I met Adam and he's the exact same way. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like we're just two kids living.
Exactly.
You know?
I feel that way about me and Paula. We're like a generation ahead of y'all.
Yeah. But we're all kids. But I mean, at the end of the day,
it's
kids
like living. There you go.
Yeah.
It's like no adult supervision in the room.
I literally, the other day, I was like, I feel like I'm still 18 and I just moved out of my parents' house. Where I'm like, oh my gosh, the world's open to me. I can do it. I can drive. I have my own credit card. Like, I can do whatever the hell I want to. No one's going to tell me anything.
Yeah.
But I think I think my childhood kind of made me a little dim to myself until I moved out. And then it was like I was a kid again, because I could live. I could, like,
so your childhood made you dim to yourself.
Yes.
Can you double click on that?
Click. Well, I think that.
Zoom.
I know. I think I think, and I don't want to paint my parents in a bad light, because I think everybody's got their issues,
Right.
But I think they really wanted me to be a certain person, especially my mom, which I never was. But also because I'm adopted, so I'm genetically different than her, so I act different. I mean, compared to my sister, we are night and day. And I know people say that about their siblings, but
and your sister is genetically their kid?
No. Oh, yes, my mom's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
they have. My brother had my dad had the boys. My mom had my sister, and then they got married. And then I was adopted. Okay. So me and my mom are so different. Yeah. But she really wanted to, like, put me in this box and, like, make me be this, like, the fact I have tattoos, oh my gosh, she still is like, I will never hear the end of it. Yeah. But, I lived in that for, like, 18 years. And my dad was very, if he told me to go kill somebody right now, I'd be like, yes, sir. Puts the fear of God in me. Please, I'm not going to show him this. But anyway, so it was like in my house, I just stayed quiet. Because I was like, I don't know what to say that's wrong or right. I would act out in my genuine self and get reprimanded for it, Just. So
I thought the other night you said we're at volleyball. Same night we took that picture.
Yeah.
That's bothering so many people who can't control themselves.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. You're fine. You're fine. Those people need to go get right.
Yeah, it's anatomy. Live with it.
You said you don't ever remember feeling like you really did anything super wrong when you were growing up. I don't remember how you worded it.
I said that?
Or like you didn't feel guilty. Never made you feel guilty? Was that it?
I can't believe I said that. I think maybe because I've been so long not feeling guilty. Yeah. I think I didn't feel guilty. I felt like maybe I did feel like I did wrong in everything. I don't know if guilt is the right word. Okay. I think guilt was a byproduct of other things. And
you might have been talking about when you were like a kid.
Yes, I think that's what it was. Because I think when I was younger, my mom and I had a wonderful relationship. Yeah. Because I was a little kid. I could do whatever. I could be whatever she wanted me to be. But once I kind of gained my own, personality, that rubbed her the wrong way. But my dad was always like a weird, he was just very, just had an anger. So I think, I just kind of steered clear of him. I'm serious. I still do.
Steer clear and avoid.
Okay. But, I think that's, the guilt would come from maybe like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing or, I don't know if that makes sense. Sometimes
No,
I get
no, it
jumbled in
does.
my words,
No, so
but
this whole, like, who you really are, I remember, okay, let me just try to say it this way.
yeah.
When I was at a Southern Baptist church as a teenager.
Yeah.
And Southern Baptists and Independent Baptists are a little different. Like on paper, a lot of the beliefs are the beliefs like they matter.
Yeah.
Like your beliefs about volleyball, they don't matter.
Yeah.
It took me a while to see that. It took me a
Yeah.
while to see that beliefs don't matter. That, now there are propositions like the court is a certain size, the net is a certain
Yeah.
height, and but believing that doesn't really make you a volleyball player. And
Yeah.
so anyway, I like tightened down around age 21, 22. I remembered being in an independent Baptist church. So my parents are and the Southern Baptists, they're a little more relaxed and it's a little more fluid, a little more easygoing. Not it's not as super serious. I mean, I'm not saying they don't take God seriously, but it's not so rigid. There's a little more wiggle room, I guess, to kind of be yourself.
Yeah.
And I got this idea that, man, the independent Baptists, they really knew their Bible. That's where it's at. I want to go back to that.
Yeah.
And so I started doubling down on this, wound up getting married, and then, played this game for 17 years as a married person. And then after getting divorced, and I'm not trying to say I lost myself in that spouse.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to
Right.
say is that I don't think we were really married to each other.
Yeah.
We were each married to the independent Baptist ideological overlay of what it said a spouse should be.
Yeah.
You
Did
see?
we talk about this the other
We
night?
probably did.
Okay, I was like, either I watched a video.
No, I talked about that because you and Adam are getting married soon.
Yes.
And we were talking about getting married to an ideological overlay of a husband and an
Yes.
ideological overlay of a wife, rather than
So it's like, if one dies, you just marry another one.
just interchangeable parts. Exactly. Exactly.
Like, if Adam died, no, I would be like,
Yeah,
there's no way.
Adam's Adam.
Yeah.
He's not like an interchangeable part that you can get
Yeah.
a different person who fills that role.
Right.
And so on this channel, it's what we call categorical. There's charitable, and then there's categorical. So charitable is like Adam's Adam, and
Yeah.
you are being to him, and he is being to you. Whereas categorical is like changing out the alternator in your car.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't cook the way I want you to, but I'm just going to swap you out for another
Yeah.
one. You're going to fill the role of wife. I'll get somebody else to fill the role of wife. That's categorical
Yeah.
thinking, and it's not charitable. It's not loving.
Yeah.
And but I don't think people realize that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't realize that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And like I'm talking to a couple right now who they're talking about what God wants for them, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they're not really talking about what God wants. They're talking about what their church has prescribed.
Yeah.
And me and Paula were just talking about like that. Like in this house, it's just me and her. Why do I want the Baptists or the Assemblies of God who are out there somewhere
Get the fuck out.
to be telling me how to live in my house?
Yes. Oh my gosh. 100,000%.
Yeah. So if she wants to mow the yard, which usually a guy's job, and I want to do the dishes and the laundry, which is stereotypically a woman's job, we're the ones that have to live with it.
Yeah. I don't think God gives a shit.
Yeah. Why are we going to let somebody else?
Yeah.
Why are we going to let somebody else tell us how to live in here? They don't have to live in here with us. We do.
Exactly.
And so-
Absolutely. That's
so, like,
such a
with-
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like with you and Adam, it's like you're going to be the ones living in the house.
Yeah.
Who needs? You don't like if I was a pastor. I'm not living there.
Yeah.
I don't need to be telling you what to do.
Yeah. Well, it's just like my mom
Yeah.
having such an issue with premarital sex.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not living with us. Like, I don't have like a church. I'm not telling a church congregation like, yeah, I'm having premarital sex. Like, I'm going to hell. I don't know.
So I had when I met Paula, I wasn't married yet, and we went on a cruise together.
Oh, fun.
Well, I'm posting pictures on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's this guy who comes. He starts stalking our Facebook page like, you're supposed to be a Christian. Did y'all share this? Did y'all share a room? Did you sleep in the same bed? I'm like, who asks these questions
Oh my, like comment?
about somebody somebody else's business. Yeah. Commenting, sending emails, posting publicly, commenting on YouTube, on Facebook, all this stuff.
And that guy calls himself a Christian.
Exactly.
That's the funny part.
Yeah. Like.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
I'm like, yes, did it last night. It was great.
Like, am I supposed to convince this fellow that I
Right.
behaved in a way that he thinks I should?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Is that pleasing to God that you're, exposing me, if that's what you want to call it?
Yeah.
It's like,
So, yeah, I'll be honest with you. There's like that's probably an area that I'm struggling with ideologically right now, because coming from having been a pastor and all this kind of stuff, calling myself a Christian, what the Bible says about some of these things, they seem really cut and dry to some people, right?
yes.
Like, don't do this, do this.
Yeah.
It's very prescriptive, very cut and dry to people. But then when I look at how life actually goes,
Yeah.
Do
you see the need for it?
I see a different, like there's a guy there's a guy who is associated with our little group that we have associated with this channel who, he is living with his girlfriend and they're not married. And like our group, we don't care,
Yeah.
I want what's best for him, and I don't know what his scenario is.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna kick somebody out or ostracize them for that.
Totally.
So when I got married the first time, there was like a drive, no sex before marriage. I've never really delved into this on the channel,
Yeah.
so I'm probably gonna lose a bunch of subscribers on this.
think?
But
I'm like, let the puppies breathe. Oh. Jesus. It's like the one comment I can see. Anyway.
yeah, I wouldn't worry about
That's
comments.
hilarious.
So we felt very strongly against premarital sex.
Yeah.
And so our solution was to get married so that we're not tempted and we don't burn with passion and do the
Yeah.
wrong thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. I had no business getting married at that age.
Yeah, how old are you? 21?
I just turned 23.
That's
right.
still very young.
Super
Very young.
I mean, you're getting married at what?
I'll be a week away from 28.
You'll be a week away
I
from
met
28.
Adam when I was 24.
And I'm still, like, I think that's probably a lot safer, but
Yeah.
I'm still, like, biting my nails and hoping it works out. But,
For me?
Yeah.
Kevin!
It's just so, I think you're going to be fine.
I know,
And so
I
that's
know.
the deal. Like, in hindsight, the decisions that I made, I thought were morally correct because of what I believed. I was following rules.
Yeah.
Turns out that my desire to follow rules caused me to make stupid decisions that weren't wise.
Yeah.
And now, not only am I paying for those decisions, but there's quite a few people paying for those
Yeah.
decisions, like my kids,
Yeah.
my ex, my ex and I, we're just like oil and water. We're just not the two kind of personalities that are going to get together.
Yeah.
Not anymore anyway. And it probably would have just been better if it's so. There's people like you, who you're going to get married later. You're with Adam now. There's me and Paula talk about this all the time. There's other couples that we know that are just like that. They're living their life. They're doing their thing, and nobody's all up in their business, and nobody cares. And then
Yeah.
I see them as launching early adulthood, and like you and Adam launching adulthood way better than I did.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that I did not have the ideology to telling me to make those decisions for right and wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
I would have been a lot better off.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
You only know what you know, especially when you're 23. It's so easy to think. I mean, that was before. I'm trying to think of like.
But the problem with the Christian ideology is you think you're right.
I know.
You think you got it all.
I know.
Like you were talking about how much I know the Bible earlier. I'll show you this on one.
Yeah.
You know that much Bible, and you think you got all the answers.
Yeah.
I know all the answers. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, there's so much at stake. Your
Did not.
afterlife. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like.
Your afterlife is
Yeah.
at stake.
And that's the weird thing. I was thinking, because I was like, what is he going to ask me on the channel? I need to like refresh my memory. But I was thinking, the thought of going to hell was never a threat to me.
Yeah.
Like, that was one thing growing up in the Methodist church. I mean, I went to Bible study. I was like involved in church. But the thought of hell, that was never an option for me. You know, like I removed that. So I think that's why when I look back on my upbringing in like a Methodist church, it was really lovely. It was really nice. Of course, there were things that I, would like, have not happened, but it's just funny. That was just never a fear of mine.
Yeah,
of like going to hell.
Motivated by fear of going to hell.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No.
So, yeah, here's what I think, like, and I'm developing this right now. And this is
in the works.
I think that we evangelicals have gotten something really wrong about salvation.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. And I think I might still be too attached to my Baptist upbringing and background in order to think clearly about it.
Yeah.
But so when I look at Scripture, like Jesus is the way. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And the way, if you were to translate that into Chinese, it would be Tao. The way.
Yeah.
It says, "I am the way." That's what the word is, the way. And so, I see Jesus as. Are you familiar with Joseph Campbell, Hero with 1,000 Faces? Mm-mm. So, we talk about this sometimes here on the channel too. There's like a through line between, say, Luke Skywalker from Star Wars and Simba from The Lion King and Pinocchio. You know what I mean? There's like a hero's journey.
Yeah.
And there's like a certain through line. And Jesus Christ would be like the ultimate archetypal hero. The person who took on the most responsibility, bore the most cost for having done so, and then you come back to life. That's like the ultimate. That's the ultimate thing. And so we have these. I think that following the way of Jesus is like the ultimate thing a person can do. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know the way of Jesus when I was a fundamentalist Baptist.
Yeah.
I knew beliefs.
You knew the way of the Baptist.
Well, I didn't know the way of anything.
Yeah.
I knew a set of beliefs.
Yeah.
And I erected that set of beliefs as like an idol, and that was my Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Rather than the way that is Christ. And so the way, like, there's like this order, disorder, reorder of Christ's life, his death, his resurrection. And that's how life goes. So like there's order, like I'm married, I'm a pastor, I'm doing all the things. Then there's divorce, and then I start questioning, like, is what I'm believing correct? Or am I doing it incorrectly? Something like that. Got to ask all these questions. Yeah. So there's this like period of disorder, and then reorder starts to have like a resurrection cycle.
Right. What was your... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What was your relationship with Jesus or God during that disorder? Like, were you almost like, I don't even want to go back into it because I just don't know?
So it was like the biggest thing that I wanted to do was stay married.
Why?
Just because I thought that was the right thing to do.
You thought that was God's will.
Well, not just that, but I also had kids and,
right.
And there's a whole bunch of other things that come along with, it ties into everything of life. It ties into your finances, it ties into relationships, ties into kids. So, and then I also thought it was the right thing to do. And I never saw myself as somebody who's going to get divorced. And so when that became inevitable, and then it's all in action, right? We signed the papers, she's out of the house, paying child support, all that stuff's going on. Yeah. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? Yeah. Because I had all the answers.
Yeah.
I was the one that told other people how to stay married. We were the ones who went to the family reunion and gloated about how we were the only couple that wasn't divorced and everybody else was. We really did.
Yeah.
We really did. I mean,
funny.
It's embarrassing to say that.
I mean.
And then so I went in what you might call a liminal state. So I wasn't against anything and I wasn't for anything. Yeah. I just went to, I don't know. Yeah. I thought I knew. Now I don't know.
Yeah. Is there anxiety or chaos in that? Or are you just kind of like, I'm here?
There was anxiety and there was chaos because I actually thought that I was in the process of leaving Christianity.
Yeah. Like to go to atheism or agnosticism?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There was no telos to this.
Yeah.
There was just a letting go. and now I'm like a spacecraft that's no longer moored to anything.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm floating to.
Yeah. Oh, that's the
And-
worst position to be in.
Well,
Not the worst, but it's scary.
Yeah, like oddly enough, what brought me back to Christianity was Jordan Peterson,
Really?
who is not a professing Christian.
Yeah.
He's,
I want to say he is now, right?
I think he would. Yeah, as much as anybody could claim they are,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, like I guess the central thing of Christianity is the resurrection of Christ.
Right.
And
Yes.
he has this video where he's crying and he's like, I've come to the place where I don't see how it could be any other way that the physical and the metaphysical meet in the person of Christ at his resurrection. That sounds right. It has to be the case. Something like that. I can't remember exactly how he worded it.
Yeah.
But like he now is, I hate to use the word believer, but he's all on board. He's team resurrection now, where he wasn't before, and that's like the
Yeah.
main thing with Christians.
Right.
But he is now, but he wasn't at the time. But it was through listening to Jordan Peterson that I finally understood, like, got a concept of what it actually, like, tasted like to believe not just the facts, but to, like, lean in with your actions about Jesus being true and real.
Yeah.
And then to learn what truth was. Like, always tell the truth and try not to lie. We Baptists, we thought we knew all the truth was.
Yeah.
And it turns out everyone's living a lie.
Yeah.
Everyone who's a fundamentalist Baptist, the guy who just emailed me earlier, they're all living a lie. They're all hiding something. They're all virtue
Yeah.
signaling.
Yeah.
Nobody's being who they are. Nobody's saying what they really think.
Yeah. Because it's safe. You know, it's
Yeah,
safe
well,
to live in these
temporarily.
lines.
It's temporary.
Yeah, temporary safety.
Temporarily.
Absolutely.
Man,
Absolutely.
I wanted you to do more talking, and I'm over here running my mouth.
No,
I
but
should be
you're-
prompting you.
No, I feel like no. You're more interesting than me.
Well, you're
truly.
prompting me to say things that I have not really explicated very clearly on this
Right.
channel before.
Are you comfortable with that?
Oh yeah, I have to be.
You're like,
I have
yeah.
to be. I have to be.
Yeah.
If because I believe in being authentic and as true as possible. The only
Yeah.
thing that makes me uncomfortable is that I'm not exactly sure. Like some of the fundamentalists in the audience, they want everything to be propositionally reduced. And I can't do that anymore. I can't propositionally reduce things. But what I can see more clearly than ever is what the way of Christ is. I can see that more
Yeah.
clearly than ever. I feel like I'm a Christian now and wasn't before.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah. Do you? Because maybe this is me not remembering our conversation correctly 2 years ago, the first time we ever talked. No, I'm not being
No, I'm like-
sassy. But like, for some reason, because I remember talking to you being like, "Do you think the resurrection is real?" And I don't know why I thought you said you were a follower of Christ, like the ways, but maybe not as much a believer in the true resurrection, like it actually happening. Is that
So
right?
I don't think I said it that way.
I mean, this is 2 years
I
ago.
think-
I'm.
Okay, let me
You definitely did not say
let me
that
show
way.
you a verse of scripture.
Yeah.
Let me show you kind of what I'm getting at. If I go to John 3:23. That's not 3:21. There we go. He that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in God. See the emphasis on doing there? Right? And then I'm going to show you another one. I'm going to go to John 7:17. If any man will do his will, he shall know the doctrine, whether it be of God, whether I speak of myself. My deal was this. When it comes to, say, somebody becoming a Christian, I think there's a doing component that should be emphasized first. Right? Right now, we convert people to Christianity by getting them to agree on certain affirmations. And maybe the way to come into Christianity isn't just, you must affirm the resurrection.
Yeah.
You must believe that truly happened. Like, maybe you don't know, maybe you're on the fence,
Yeah.
but let's see God and Christ as a verb, and let's try to do
I
that
see what
for a
you're saying.
while.
Yes.
You see?
Yes. I feel like I live my life in that way, where I try to have a godly lens. You know,
Yeah.
I kind of strip my scholarly lens that I learned in school, because that will make me in the middle of
That's so amazing. that you
the
use words
most
that way.
confused Like, the whole time I was in school, I would go to my professor and be like, please tell me if God's real. Like, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
And so finally I was like, I'm just not even going to think that way. I'm going to put my godly lens on. And then I was opened up to this world of like, you know what? I think God is real. I think Jesus might be real, you know? So I had that thought first, and then I came to the resurrection being like, do I think it's true? You know, instead of like that first.
Right.
But then us having this conversation, it made me kind of like, those things that have been dead for a while, I put on my scholarly lens, and I was like,
Those things
well,
that have been dead for a while.
you know? Now I'm like, I don't know what I believe. I was talking to my professor, I want to say either yesterday or the day before, and I was almost
How'd that
like,
conversation go?
oh, it was great. I like brought him something, and
How long ago did you graduate? If you don't mind me
2020.
asking? Okay, so it's been a minute and a
yeah.
half.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're still in contact with this professor.
Yeah. So my best friend was also in the religious studies department.
And this is all...
LSU.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so everyone's here in the same town and all that.
Well, my best friend has moved.
But the professor... It's just that when I got my degree, I immediately went to Fort Hood in Iraq. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And there's no Facebook and all that kind of stuff. That's back in 2003, right? So
Yeah.
I just lost touch with all these guys, and I've been trying to recontact them, you know, lately, and some of them have
Yeah.
died.
Oh,
You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so...
well, it's the beauty of, you know, technology with, you know, got our phones and emails and,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean,
and,
Facebook didn't come out till what, 2006, 7, something like that, and I wasn't on it
I
until
think so.
2008.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm like traveling all around. So it didn't occur to me to try to reach out to my professors again until
Yeah.
probably like a year and a half ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, and then
Yeah.
the one of them that I really respected a lot, he's passed away. Another one reached back out, and we just chatted online a little bit. But anyway,
Yeah.
so you're talking to your
Yeah.
religious studies professor.
Yeah. And it's like I adapt his lens of things, you know? So then when we're talking, I'm like thinking of it like, well, maybe God's not real, you know? It's like how we were talking about authority. Immediately
We're
when
talking about locus of authority. there,
right.
Yeah.
I see him, we talk about religion, and I'm like, here you go, here's my locus of authority, you have it. Like, I don't know
so
why.
vested in you.
Yes, I mean, because I think to myself, I'm like, you know so much more than me than I will probably ever know, because he's his doctor in early Christianity.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in my mind, I'm like, you do have the authority, you know?
Yeah.
So
Or the information.
the
knowledge.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know.
that's a big struggle with like believing and affirming the fact claims of Christianity. Is
Yeah.
like I don't have a problem with them. I don't doubt them. I don't disbelieve them. I have no problem saying those are the case. But I don't necessarily think that's the place to start.
Right.
Like if I'm going to use the way that is Christ to help somebody transform their life, I don't think starting with the propositional truth claims is the way.
Right.
Is the place to start. You know,
Yeah.
this whole thing where it's do
Yes.
first, and then see how that pans out, and then you start to
Yeah.
see it for yourself.
Yes. That I feel like that has released a little bit of my, because I mean, literally this week I've been like, oh, we're starting right back from the beginning, where I'm like, I don't know, because I mean, the way that we learn in school, it's like you have to, if you cannot prove it, then it didn't happen, you know.
So what you're doing
Makes sense.
when you're like, I'm back to the beginning and don't know, is what we call beginner's mind. It's what you're.
Yeah.
It takes people, and that's another thing that's like kind of unique about you, is that you're doing intuitively and by default what it takes some people years and years and years to learn that they need to do,
Right.
which is to let go of thinking you know.
Yeah.
Let's go back to I don't know and start again. And then tomorrow we're going to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we're never going to come to a place where we're like, oh, I've got it figured out.
Yes.
It's like, it's
this
kind
is
of,
me every day, seriously.
yeah. And
Yeah, if I start thinking about it, I'm like, nope, we're back to square one. But I will applaud, I think, my parents on this. Well, maybe just myself. Because I just didn't listen to what they said. I was like, I made up my own mind. I was like, whatever you guys say is wrong, and I'm right. So I think I kind of exercised that or just being intuitive and being like what I think is right, not you.
so that's an internal locus of authority, which you are.
That's funny, because I feel like I never had that. I always felt like
but
it was
when
other
you
people.
describe your decisions
Yeah.
and you have divergent thinking from your parents, like you.
Yeah.
And the problem with the particulars is that people get hung up on the particulars, but the way you and Adam are together now, the way you decided to get tattoos, the way
Yeah.
you know. Everyone, like stage 3 people, all see this as rule breaking, but
Yeah.
it's it's indicative of you making up, having the freedom and the liberty to make your own choice and to know what you
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you realize this, but so many people who are indoctrinated religiously, they don't even know what they think.
Yeah.
There's the ideology. I know what I'm supposed to think.
Yeah.
And so what Kevin really thinks, we may never know that. And so even if what you think is all wrong, at least you know what you think. And
Yeah.
that's a better starting point than spending 25 years in the ideology and then coming out the other side having no idea what you really think or what
Yeah.
you really know.
Absolutely. That's crazy. I needed you to break that down for me because it's so funny. I always talk about how I just hand over the authority to everybody. But my mom, since I've been little, has been like, you do whatever you want, you know? Like, nobody's bossing you around, you know? Like, I've always just been one to do what I want,
So,
think what I want.
Maybe it's a different word. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe you have perspective taking capability.
Yes. Oh my gosh,
So
absolutely.
you can see through their lens. And
Yeah.
then it maybe needs a little development to where you can see through their lens, but don't feel like you're adapting it,
Yeah,
adopting
that's
it for
hard.
yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
I wonder, do you feel like that's a maturity thing or just some people have a more, I don't know.
So I have a book up there called Stages of Faith. And one of the reasons I keep looking at those books is because there's ideas in them that have helped me see things a little more clearly. But there's a book up there called Stages of Faith that breaks things down into different stages. And one of the measures of a stage of development is perspective taking capacity. Like the ability to see another perspective and see. So if I could recapitulate your experience for you, okay, I can sit in a Methodist church and I can hear what they have to say, and I can see that.
Yeah.
I can also go to this Catholic event where they're saying the rosary. I can see that.
Yeah.
I can talk to this professor over here, and he's a skeptic. I can see that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a perspective taking capability
Yeah.
that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people, they're so judgmental, they, instead of listening for the signal that might be in that perspective, they just judge it as wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, they're Catholic, they're bad.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's a skeptic, he's going to hell, he's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's actually, one of the, I guess there's a part of me that's a little jealous because at, a few weeks away from 28, you have a lot more perspective-taking capability than I had when I was that age.
Yeah.
A lot more,
Yeah.
So I have this rigidity.
Yeah.
I have this, and so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
That's so awesome you say that because I think my dad is very like I always bring it back to my parents, but I think for a long time my mom
I do the same thing.
it always. I'm like, they're your parents, but I always think about it. I'm like, why does she not like how I am? Because I've always been that way. Like I've never been. My dad now is like very thankful that I am the way that I am, but I think it was really hard for my mom. I think she wanted to indoctrinate me. And I was like, I'm not going to fucking let you do that, because I'm just very like, let me do my own thing. So maybe that's why, like, I think she is rigid in her ways when it comes to Christianity, but I just like was not falling into that. I made my own way around it. And I don't know. I don't know if it's because I was adopted and I genetically am different. I think different than you. I, feel the difference between you and I, but I don't know. Just kind of thinking out loud here of, is this making sense?
So I have this story. This genetic thing is very interesting to me. Cause,
Yeah, I know.
So Paula was raised by what is actually her stepdad because her birth father died when she was in utero.
No way.
So her sister and her were raised in the same house. Sister's 2 years younger than her. We were just talking about her and how they used to fight, right?
Yeah.
So they have different biological dads, but they were raised by the same two parents.
Yeah.
It's the only two parents they ever knew.
Right.
Is those two, and they're very different people.
Yeah.
And so, my cousin, this is, I don't know if I can tell this story.
Okay.
So I was dating a girl, and of course it was in Alabama. And I was about to graduate high school. I was about to go to Marion Military Institute, and so me and her we were like, we're pretty serious and maybe we're going to get engaged. But I'm not going to start talking about engagement until I get to know her parents and make sure her parents are okay with all that. I don't want to talk to the dad and say, here's what I have in mind. Are you okay with that? And then if he's not, maybe we'll, because I was trying to be a good little boy.
Oh.
So I go to their house for dinner and I'm hanging out with their parents and we're all having a good time. Everybody's telling jokes. We're all laughing. And her dad looked and acted exactly like my first cousin. I mean, he laughed the same way, told the same kind of jokes, had the same mannerisms.
Like, oh my God.
Now, so I go home and I tell my mom about this. I said, hey, and I'm going to leave names out of this. But I'm like, have you ever noticed how much, I just noticed, I just went and ate dinner with my girlfriend's parents and her dad acts just like cousin so-and-so. And my mom goes, what's his name?
Oh, gosh.
So I told her his name, and she's like, that's his real birth father, and nobody's supposed to know.
Oh, that's crazy!
So nobody's supposed to know.
That's crazy.
And so, and they never met. Like, my cousin had never met his bio dad. He's been being raised by his, what is essentially his stepdad his whole life, who took good care of him and all that.
Totally.
He was there for him and all this kind of stuff. It just wasn't his bio dad.
Did he know who his bio dad was, or he just had no idea?
I don't think he knew at all. I think it was like a family secret.
That is
like my mom knew.
Bonkers.
Her sister, who was his mother, knew, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so this thing comes out, and so now, so the point is genetically, like, I feel like I act like my dad a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's genetic or if I just was around him for so many years that I say some of the same stuff. These two guys, they acted just like each other, looked just alike, acted just alike, never met each other.
Yeah.
All genetic. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
It's kind of sweet.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the whole I guess that's my story of how genetics and upbringing, wow, you think.
Like the difference. And my dad, so funny. I was like, I don't want to, the other week, I was like, I don't want to grow up and be like mom. And he's like, you won't. You're genetically different than her. And I was like, you're right. I mean, genetics I think they play such a big part.
So then there I am in Alabama.
That's fucking crazy.
And I'm dating, and I did not know this the whole time.
Yeah.
I just moved there from Tampa, right?
Yeah.
And I was in Tampa.
The synchronicities that surround you.
I know, because we were talking earlier about this house and everything.
You need to write them all down. You could write a book on synchronicities.
And so I just moved from Tampa, and I meet this girl, and we're getting along, and everything's fine. So now it's in my head. I'm like, I'm dating.
Could you tell her?
Oh, yeah. We talked about it for sure. It was one of the first things we did.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm dating, and was intending to marry one day.
Yeah.
My cousin's half sister. And this is all going down in Alabama.
You're like, I'm fitting right in, partner. I'm going to marry my cousin.
And so we did the genetic math on it. I'm like, well, she's not my sister. She's not related to me at all. So I convinced myself that I was okay with it, but it kept working on me. It kept working on me, and I'm like, I don't think I can do this.
Was it more people's opinions?
No, not really. It's just knowing that it was the case. Like, okay, we would have a kid, and my cousin would be the kid's uncle.
Oh.
You see? And my cousin would be the kid's uncle and the kid's second cousin.
Yeah. It's like too weedy for the kids. It's like, I don't want to bring you into that. Yeah. So that's why y'all broke up?
Well.
Oh, that's tough.
That's the clean story of how we broke up.
The G-rated.
Well, there's nothing R-rated in how we broke up, but I had gone off to college and I had met someone else, and that kind of gave me the excuse that I needed to let this thing that was bothering me, and it was
that's young too, to think like, I want to marry this person.
Well, what else do you think when you're raised that way? That's what people do. You grow up and you get married. That's all people do. And I'm like, oof, that's I don't know. You got to live out those years to, I don't know, exercise just discovering yourself, Well, Well, the way you said exercise then sounds more like exercising a demon out of you. You know?
Expelling a demon out of me. No, I think just, like, I traveled a ton before I met Adam. You know?
Right.
I was doing this, I was doing
I was
that. I
gonna ask you
dropped out
about
of
that.
college, like, you know.
I want to ask you about your travels.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead with what you were thinking. Just
Well,
then.
yeah, I mean, and if I would have been with Adam, I would have never done all those things. And those were
Right.
absolutely just shaped me into who I am now.
Right.
You know, the traveling and the whatnot, and, you know, yeah.
So how's all this traveling going? That's one of the things we talked about. You had been to the Himalayas.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did Everspace Camp.
You did what?
Everspace Camp?
Ever Space Camp?
You know Everest, Mount Everest?
Oh, Everest.
Yes.
Everest Base Camp.
Yes.
Because
Every time I tell people that, they're like, "You went to space camp?"
that's
Like,
what I heard.
no.
That's what I thought I heard. There's a movie
Yeah.
called Space Camp.
Yeah.
That's
but,
what I thought I heard.
Yeah.
Space Camp. Ever Space Camp. That's
yeah.
what I thought I
went to
heard.
space. Crazy.
So you went to Everest
Your
Base Camp.
I feel like your followers are gonna be like, they're not talking about religion.
Well, everybody in the chat isn't necessarily a follower. Some of them are haters.
Are you a hater?
I don't know. You just never know until you read them.
Yeah. Do you read them?
Sometimes. Like, these are live chats, so
Aren't tats just appearance? Yes.
what I do for live chats, especially if people aren't behaving,
Can you read that from where you are?
not really well.
Okay, I'm like, I have such bad eyesight sometimes.
If I'm trying to have a conversation like we're trying to do today, I try to keep my eyes peeled for super chats, which are easy to
Right.
see. And if I don't see, or if I see people that I know, I might look. But
Yeah.
otherwise, a lot of hateful people in Christianity, so it just helps not to
Yes.
read the stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I see
better.
it pop up, and I'm like, oh gosh, what if they have questions? What if, you know? But
Yeah. What if they have questions?
yeah, I'm like, what questions you got for me? But anyway,
John
so
7:24 is also perfect for what you're doing. Let me see.
Which
what
one?
they're- Oh, judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment. That's a good one too.
that is a great one.
Yeah, I love that one.
That's really awesome.
So you travel.
Yes. So
How's that come about?
Yeah,
Like,
so-
when I was that age, traveling was out of the question unless I was going to Iraq.
yeah, I was very grateful. My dad, I think, did not have the means to travel as a small child. Like, he came from nothing, and he really built this beautiful, wonderful, successful business. He wanted
Right.
his kids to reap the benefits. And truly, that's how I've been able to travel so much, is because of him. And I'm so grateful
Yeah,
for that.
which is great. I think
Yes.
that's one of the best gifts a parent can give their kid.
Absolutely.
Is
And the craziest thing,
to give them experiences.
absolutely. And he doesn't do it for himself, which I'm
You
like,
know,
come on,
when
Dad.
you have experiences, they unlock. Have you ever heard of epigenetics?
Yes.
So you have genetics, and that's like
Yeah.
determines your eye color and your hair color and
Yeah.
how tall you are, that kind of stuff. But like epigenetics are things in your genes that can be unlocked
Mm-hmm.
by experiences.
Yeah.
And then you can pass those on to your kids. So what I would suspect, you see,
That's cool.
you've traveled all this way, you're playing volleyball and you're winning championships, and then you're about to get married. So whenever the time comes that you may have kids, they may have more epigenetics unlocked in them
That's crazy.
and be born with those unlocked genes, I guess.
Yeah, they reap your benefits
Yes.
in a sense.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
that's so
So it
cool.
kind of, and I didn't know this when I had
Yeah.
kids, but if you wait till you're, 29, 30 something to have kids, there are some epigenetic benefits that you can pass down to them that you otherwise might not be able to.
That's so,
So
sweet.
all my kids were conceived and born when I was stupid.
You were never stupid.
So
It's pretty funny.
so you start traveling.
Yeah, so the first time I kind of always traveled with my parents. We, went to the beach, whatever. I mean, we did fun trips. We didn't just go to the beach. But I was in college,
The beach
and
is fun?
the beach is fun. Beach is great. But I just mean, like, I feel like that's like a typical Louisiana vacation. It's like, well, let's go to the beach. But I love the beach.
That's a pretty good accent there.
Yeah, that's how my dad talks. I'm kidding.
Oh.
But when I was a junior, I saw this thing at school to study abroad. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going.
Yeah.
So I asked my dad. He was like, of course. So I went to Austria for like 6 weeks.
He's like, of course.
He's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, my whole childhood, I was so terrified of him. But then when I became an adult,
Yeah.
he nourished my self-development so well. And endlessly grateful for him. But yeah, he
That's
was like,
amazing.
Oh my God, he's the best.
Yeah, I'm a fan of your dad.
Me too. He's scary, but he's awesome. I mean, seriously, sometimes...
That's kind of a great thing to have in a dad,
Yeah.
you know?
I turn into a child, like when he gets angry with me. I'm like... But, so then after that, I saw this ad, this flyer at school to go to Africa. And I was like, Dad, can I go to Africa? And he was like, sure, we'll go to Africa. So I went to Africa. And then I went to Nepal with that same group. And I just caught the bug. I felt
To travel, yeah.
self-actualized when I would go to these places, you know?
Wow.
Like, I was like, I feel amazing, you know? And then I'd come home and just be slumped, you know? And I would ride that wave. So it's been kind of hard to mesh the two.
What's the two what?
Like,
Traveling
home me versus travel me.
Oh. So what's the longest time you've ever been abroad?
6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it in one place or are you
Yeah.
jumping around?
Well, I like studied abroad in Innsbruck, Austria, and then we'd travel on the weekends and stuff.
Okay.
But, yeah. So, it's kind of hard to...
What did you study while you were there?
Psychology
Oh,
and
nice.
Anthropology.
Psychology and anthropology.
Yeah.
Those are great disciplines,
It was-
especially to be abroad to study.
Yes, it was hard because, of course, we'd go out and drink till, like, you know, whatever, and you can't miss class. So we'd show up at, like, 8 a.m., like, just, you know. But it was so fun. I went by myself. I didn't know anybody. It was the first time, like, I was so innocent as a 20-year-old.
Did you go with a group of people you didn't know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was
there's a
through
group-
the University of New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I just went through that, but I just met a ton of people, and I don't know, as like a 20-year-old, like, you're so young, you don't really know much about the world. I was very sheltered as a child, so it's like my whole world just opened up.
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
something about seeing how other people live in
Oh, it's
completely different
crazy.
cultures.
Yeah. Oh,
That is real eye-opening.
when I went to Tanzania, I was like, Dad, I'm going to sell my car. I don't need a car. You know? Like, I felt so gluttonous of all the things we have, the possessions, the fact that we could take a hot shower.
Right.
Like, all these little things that you don't even know. Like, sometimes I'll be in the shower, I'm like, literally, thank you, God. You know? When I went to
Yes.
Nepal for
Yeah.
a month, I took 3 showers. Because
Oh,
the water
for
was
a
so
month.
freezing.
For a month.
For a whole month, and I hiked for 2 weeks. Like, the water was so cold, and it was
right.
so cold outside. It was bad. Like, but, yeah, I came home, and I take a bath every night now. Like, I love...
So what'd you
I
do
love
in
baths.
Nepal?
So in 2015, there was that earthquake that kind of
Mm-hmm.
devastated some villages. So there was this village that out of like 30 homes, only 3 were left standing.
Mm-hmm.
So we went over there for a few weeks, and we helped rebuild a few homes.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you can go on the Everest Base Camp trek if you want, or you can go home.
Everest Base Camp.
Everest Space Camp. But yeah, so then we did that. Yeah, and it's just your phone doesn't work. You know, I never got an international plan. Like, you're just so in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that here. Because you're just always on your phone. You're just in this pocket of, like, blissful living.
Did you look at all into the religious practices at all of the people in Nepal?
Yeah, so they were pretty sure they're mostly Buddhist. We didn't go to any
Yeah.
temples or anything.
Yeah.
We mostly just, did volunteer work. And they told us a little bit about it, but nothing, that was kind of before my interest in religious studies.
Mm-hmm.
Tanzania and Nepal. So, I know, I wish I would have, I really wish I would have studied religion and then gone there and then, learned a little more. But,
You said you got your degree in 2020, right?
yeah.
I just now realized that I heard like 2010 or 2000 when you said that. That's what I heard.
How
That's
old
what I
do you
heard.
think I am? I was...
No, it's like, I don't know, like my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I just now realized that I heard that wrong, or I thought wrongly when you said it.
Yeah. I was a freshman in high school in 2010.
So you're doing all,
Yeah.
you've seen all these things.
Yeah.
Having been to Nepal and
Tanzania.
and then go to religious studies.
Yes.
Would probably be a better order to do things
You think?
than to do religious studies and then go up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I just wish I would have had more of a lens for it. Like, I would have looked for it more. Like, when we were in Tanzania, we had to wear t-shirts, we had to wear long skirts because they were mostly Muslim over there, and we were told, be very respectful of that,
Right,
which
right.
obviously we were. The Muslim call to prayer would wake us up every morning, which is really cool, at 5 o'clock in the morning, like sweating in these mosquito nets, and you hear the call to prayer. and you go on the beach. But
Did you ever participate in the calls to prayer or
no,
try
I
to do
never
any of that?
did. I don't know if it was a thing we wanted to be respectful and kind of like let them do their thing, but we just didn't. I don't know.
So I was woken up by a call to prayer a bunch of times
Oh, in Iraq.
in Iraq.
Cool.
So we lived in Tikrit. We lived in the little fort area that Saddam Hussein used to have in the
No
palace.
way.
Yeah, we were in the same little compound that had the palace and everything. My first time there.
So cool.
Now, second time there, we were in the same area, like geographically, but not exactly on
Yeah.
the royal compound. But we're actually
Yeah.
there in the middle of the Sunni Triangle, right there in the
So
compound.
cool.
And so right outside the walls, because we occupied the inside, we weren't
Yeah.
doing the prayer calls, but right outside the walls they were.
Yeah.
And
Isn't it? It's a wild thing. It's so cool. I'm like, I feel like I've just been transported somewhere else.
Well,
which
there's, yeah,
obviously
I
not.
remember going out to, yeah, it is. So we had a phone service on our base, which led to outside, but we had to have, I remember the guy's name, Nassab, but we had to have this guy who was like Saddam's cousin who owned the phone company. I had to contact him to get him to come fix our phone wires and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And so I remember going out, we left the compound, we go out to the mayor's hut, and we're all sitting around, and we're sitting around like Indian style, or I don't know, I think you're not allowed to say that anymore. Crisscross applesauce, I don't know.
Are you serious? You can't say that.
Yeah, it's racist now. You're a racist if you say Indian
Get.
style.
I'm sorry. I'm probably gonna be a meme now. Get over yourself.
So
ugh.
we're all sitting around on the ground on these little rugs, and we're all talking. So the idea, well, you have to socialize first before you can get to any business.
Aw.
And I'm just there, and they're
So
trying to talk
cool.
about other things, and I'm the signal officer for this military police battalion, so I just got to talk to this dude to see if I think he was like to see if Nassab could come out there and fix our phone stuff. And so, I waited my turn, but they passed around these candies, and the whole time it's like they almost look like little Laffy Taffies, but of course they got Arabic writing all over them.
Yeah.
So we eat our little candies, and then for a drink they have one pitcher of water and they pour it in this glass, and then everyone passes the same glass around to kind
Yeah.
of wash down the candy.
That's
And the water was almost opaque.
At that point, you're like, well, did you get sick ever?
Yeah, not
From-
real bad though. Not
Yeah.
from that. I don't think I got sick from that. But
Yeah.
you just you get cold, stuff like that. Leishman
Yeah.
ice, that's the big thing over there. So, there's a thing that after you see so many other cultures, so many hundreds of thousands of other people, and you look at these people in the
Yeah,
eyeballs.
I know.
It's easy to dehumanize other people because they're some kind of them. But you look them in the eyeball, and you're like, do I really think that me sitting over there in, Summerdale, Alabama, has all the truth?
Yeah. Oh, right. Oh
And
my
these
gosh.
people have none?
I know.
Like I have sole access to God, and He isn't their God too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, who do I think I
100%.
am?
I know.
Like, how prideful and arrogant we are to think that we have such sole exclusive access to God.
Yeah.
You see how many people are out there and how different they are?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's like an eye-opener from a religious perspective, from a spiritual perspective. Like, maybe we should do a little more listening and a little less talking.
Yeah.
See what they have to say.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I kind of think I'm probably gonna piss some people off, but
I piss them off all the time.
love it. But the missionaries that go to like wherever the fuck they go to, like trying to what's the word? Evangelize
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
I'm like, leave other people the fuck alone. They're doing that, like they're following their religion. Let them do that. Don't you think that person's not going to die if they've never heard of Jesus Christ? Say it's all real and you have to believe in Jesus to go to this eternal
It's like
paradise.
it's like they're indoctrinating people,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's almost like
Pulling them away from their ancient religions, which is what Christianity did a lot in the Roman Empire. There were so many ancient religions and ways of, whatever, that were just eroded because of Christianity. It
It's
just
like
bulldozed everything.
it's like Agent Smith.
From Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Matrix. You ever seen The Matrix?
I actually haven't.
Oh.
I know, that's one thing. Growing up, like, I didn't watch a lot of TV.
So Agent Smith, they're all in a computer world, right? And
Yeah.
this one agent goes around, and he it's all digital, right? Well, it seems real to them, but basically he can stick his hand in anybody's chest and turn them into him, right? And so
Oh.
one of the things that makes the world beautiful is the differences,
Yeah.
right? And so if I have like a propositionally reductive version of Christianity, and I am going and turning everything into that, I now have lost access to this possibly great conduit of wisdom from this
Right.
other culture
Yeah.
that maybe had some signal there, that now I've told those people that the way they were brought up is the devil and you have to come over
That's
to
what I
this.
was going to say. They demonize it. They're
They
like,
demonize
oh, you
it.
can't
Right.
even look into that because it's, it's the demon. It's the devil. It's like, if this way of life thing about Buddhism is a product of humans, God made humans, it's a product of God, essentially. So why are you demonizing it?
Yeah, we're created in the
know?
image of God. Those people are created in the image of God
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So there's got to be a better way to do things. And that's another
Yeah.
thing, the missionary thing, is I've really struggled with that a lot lately because I feel like they're just creating these ideologues. They're creating like the problems that destroyed my family. They're turning people into that.
Yeah.
I'm like, we gotta. If you want to be a missionary, fine, but let's spread a
different
non-ideological version of Christianity around. The way of
agree.
Christ, not these beliefs that make people
Yeah.
judgmental and feel like they're virtuous and moral and all
Yeah.
that.
I agree.
What do you want? Well, I'm just like I feel like we've been around the checkerboard a little bit. I'm looking at a chessboard down here.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess one last thing. Your
Yes.
bling. Do you sell bling? I see you on
I
Facebook
do.
sometimes.
I do. I sell turquoise and silver. Yeah.
Like,
Rings.
yeah. Is that what you sell there?
I didn't make any of these. I need to wear my own stuff, but I just don't.
You know,
I don't know why.
Does it look like that though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It does.
Where just put it.
Yeah,
You want to show
so
it to the camera?
if
Show
you-
people what your hands
oh.
look like. Yeah, your bling. I'm showing
But-
my hands like I have a
You
wedding
got
ring
some
on.
bling. You
A little
absolutely
bit.
have some bling.
It's got some meteorite rock in there.
Oh,
It's
cool.
pretty cool.
That's really cool.
So where do you sell your stuff?
Yeah, Instagram. If you look up Silver Soul Smithing, I can do custom rings. I'm like looking at this, man. You look at this camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sell rings. I just started in January, so it's still in its infancy. But
So you make your own stuff. You design it yourself. So
Yeah.
you like made to order things.
yeah.
People tell you what they want,
Yeah.
and then you make it.
Yeah, I'll send some pictures and like here's some configurations of what I can make a ring look like. Here's some, So just
Do you
talk
do
with
like
you and
bracelets and anklets and stuff?
I've done a cuff before. They're a little bit more difficult. I do a lot of rings right now. I'm getting into cuffs and earrings and things like that, but it's a big learning curve,
I'm gonna have some orders for you.
I hope so. That'd be fun.
I got
It's
some
so fun.
design ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make Palabla ring. Yeah.
Palavel over, yeah.
I hope she like
Still
it.
not-
I hope your listeners. I was so nervous about today. I feel like we didn't talk about God enough.
No, it's fine. Like, if you tried, would you really be doing it?
I don't know. Yeah. You know what? I have pulled something very vitally important though from this conversation. Is not having the need to prove the resurrection of Jesus to be a Christ follower or to live out that life or to have that lens.
You don't. Yeah,
Which
you don't have to
was
start
so-
there.
Yeah,
You
and that was
start-
like such a vital thing for me where I'd wake up every day and I'd be like, how do I know? I would never know. My friends the other day, they were texting in our little group chat and they were like, if you could witness one part of history, what would it be? And I was like, the resurrection of Christ, so I can know if it's real or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, I guess that's not really the important thing.
I don't think it's necessarily the place to start for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if
Yeah.
somebody. I think it's okay to wrestle with doubt about the facts of things, and then I think that if you start practicing, I think the eyes come open through action. Like kind of like in volleyball, you start to
Yeah.
see the court in a different way.
Yes.
The more you play.
Absolutely.
See, and I think I hate. I'm not using the word game as an unserious kind of thing, but the more you play the game of Christianity, the more you see it.
Yeah.
And then it's also interesting to hear the way Jordan Peterson talks about truth. He's like, if you were to give an account of, like, say, everyone who was ever a father, or everyone who was ever a hero, let's use the word hero,
Yeah.
right? You could take all the hero stories and then take and they would all be true, like historically true. Those people really lived. They really did those
Yeah.
things. But then, if I'm going to make a movie about a hero, I'm not going to make a movie about any particular one. I'm going to take like the through line of the major events from all the hero stories, and I'm going to make one story combined out of all those. Now that story is not literally historically true, but it's probably more true than all the other ones in a
Yeah.
way. You see?
Yeah.
So there's a way of looking at truth like that too,
I see what. Yes.
which it's true in that truing, like think of truing as a verb, something like that.
Yeah.
There's an essence to something. So
Yeah.
what about God did we not talk about?
Oh, I don't know. No, it was great. I just
Well-
hope that I have been of service to your channel. And that
Well, I don't.
know?
I think this is gonna be like an audience reshaping conversation.
That's
Just so
good.
people know, we have conversations like this at volleyball all the time. You know,
Yeah.
like me and you, me and other people, you and other people,
Yeah.
and like, people are like, how do you witness and evangelize to people? It's like, well, it's not ideological, but
Yeah.
like just being genuine and being yourself and saying what you really think. Maybe try that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not indoctrinating them.
But I try to, when it comes to God, I've been trying to get like our audience and stuff and people to not model God.
Yeah.
Like don't think of any particular, like don't think of the man upstairs or like what we say a lot, Hebraic Megazeus or Santa Claus. You know, we have this localized image, this picture of God, like this man type person, and like maybe get rid of all that
Yeah.
and think of all the other things. Try to think of a new way to think of God every time you think of God.
Jordan Peterson has a video on that.
Does he?
In a sense, someone sent it to me, and it was like Jordan Peterson said when people ask, do you believe in God? You automatically think of like the Abrahamic God.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's
the
like,
old man in the cloud kind of thing.
yeah, he's like, reconfigure that. It's like then it's a different question for everybody. It's an individual question.
I want it. Yeah.
I'll send it to you. It's really great.
I want to hear that because I've heard him say, I hear him say like, "What do you mean believe? What does it mean to believe?" And I think that's a really great question too.
Yeah.
I've heard some people delve into that, but like, are we just believing in the fact that this old man in the sky with a beard exists and knows
Yeah.
everything? Is this? I mean, it's just, how is that not Santa Claus?
know.
But I think God is so much more than that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a palpableness, like Acts 17 says, "In Him we live, move, and have our being."
Yeah.
And I think that is something to which people can wake up and become aware.
Yeah.
And you can see it
I
everywhere.
think the first signs of, when I kind of, I guess, was an atheist for a little while and being like, I don't know what I believe. Thinking about the parental relationship kind of turned me on more to the idea of God.
That's interesting.
I think that was the first time I saw that unconditional is not even the right word for it, but just like divine love.
Yeah.
Your child could mess up so many times, you still love that child.
Yeah.
So then I took that and then kind of like looked at the world again.
That's
in a way,
really interesting.
And maybe because of my whole life I've been told, God the Father, like that's his role, or
Well, it's good that you emphasize love, and I don't know if like this is too personal, but like how the fact that you are adopted,
Yeah.
like your parents chose you.
Yeah.
That's love. That's pretty special.
It's so special. I'm so thankful.
Yeah.
Very thankful. It's
And
crazy.
there's a lot of places in the Bible that emphasize love. Like there's a whole chapter in 1 Corinthians 13. Paul, the same author, talks about in 1 Timothy, says the end of the commandment is charity. It's the first thing he mentions. When he says the end of the commandment at the beginning of 1 Timothy, he's like, that's the telos. The goal we're reaching for here, with all the things I'm about to tell you over the next 6 chapters, is love, charity, love, agape,
Yeah.
whatever word you want to put in there. Agape being the Greek word.
Yeah.
And then there's by this shall men know you're my disciples, that you love one another. But then Christians,
They fuck it up.
they mess it up. Yeah, there's.
I feel like I've cussed a little too much on this channel.
Well, yeah, I told you not to worry about cussing. I did not realize you were going to drop so many F-bombs.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. It's fine. It's
I
fine.
think I really do need to clean up the way I talk.
No, you're fine. Be you.
I know, but it's not class. It's just, it's unneeded.
But
you
it's,
know.
it's you're being your authentic self, okay?
I know, but
And if that scares some people off,
we
then
could always
maybe
use a little.
we should put a little disclaimer for if you got kids.
Yeah, I'm really sorry.
No.
I don't know. I guess I just don't even realize how much I could absolutely replace those words
Well,
with other vocabulary.
I don't watch my language so much when the camera's not on, as
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. This is my first taste of it, like you read the comments and you're the one engaging with your audience, so you kind of want to.
Well, what I want people to get a taste of, for real, I want them to kind of get what's it like to be on a fly on the wall when we're chatting in public. Like,
Yeah.
we're hanging out between volleyball games and we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
And Paula's sitting right there and Adam's sitting right there and everybody's hanging out. And maybe there's like a group of people and we're sitting there chatting, or it's just me and you sitting at the picnic table at what used to be Oasis.
Oh, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Oasis.
Poor boo boo.
I wonder what's going on out there now. Anyway.
Gordon McKernan.
So, yeah, I want people to kind of get a taste of
Yeah.
what kind of conversations are in and around the volleyball
Yeah.
world and life,
Yeah.
and how there's life out there.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're like alive to me, you
Oh,
know. And so I
thank
wanted
you.
people to get a taste of conversation with
Yeah.
with a living, like a
living
obviously a
being.
living. You ever seen 1883?
Mm-mm.
Okay, there's I tell Paula this too, but there's this character in there. I think her name is Elsa, but there's like the life of the cosmos is just pouring through this individual.
Yeah.
You know, she's just like living life, loving life, got to be into everything. Paula reminds me of that. You
Yeah.
remind me of that.
That's so sweet.
Anyway,
Thank
so
you.
I've
That's
enjoyed
very
this
kind.
conversation. Anyway,
Me
I didn't cut you
too.
off.
No, it's so kind. But I'm just so thank you for having me, and I'm just very grateful for this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
I think it'll stop the spiral, of starting from the beginning. Being like, what's real?
Well, that might
It's
be a
like
good
just
place to
live it
start,
out,
though.
and then it comes to
Oh
you.
yeah. Yeah, live it out. So
That's
you come to
beautiful.
see it. You come to see it.
Yeah.
So I don't have to put it to words. I don't have to
Yeah.
put it to words and convince people to believe it worded a certain way. You just come to see it.
Yeah, you put your godly lens on,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and not your skeptical lens.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
the way you have that.
Well,
distinction
that's
there.
kind of like when when I was at LSU and we were studying, they would always tell you that. What kind of lens are you looking at this through? Like, let's change the lens. Look at it through this lens.
And they just tell you that in the academic setting.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get people to do. I have a video that I just put out called "Shattering Misconceptions About Biblical Interpretation."
Oh,
and so
cool.
most people look
I
at
need to
biblical
watch it.
interpretation. They're like, "Well, I'm a Calvinist, so they can only see it through a Calvinist lens."
Right.
Or I'm not a Calvinist, so I can only see it non-Calvinistically. Or I'm a Catholic, I can only see it through a Calvinistic lens.
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to encourage people to do is like, if you're not a Calvinist, try putting on the Calvinist lenses. How
Yeah.
would they see this?
Yeah.
Try, and then take those off. Don't be egoically attached to them. Don't identify with that view.
Yeah.
And now put on your Catholic lenses and think about what they see.
Yeah.
And now take those off and then put on your Tibetan monk lenses. See
Yeah.
what they see. Whatever. Try on different lenses. So I had on this desk over here, I had like 4 or 5 pairs of glasses in that video, and I'm like
Oh, neat.
putting them all on.
I'll
It's
have
the
to go
same
back
kind
and
of
watch
thing.
it. Yeah.
But so you're told that when you're getting your degree, I like to do that. We're very much discouraged from doing that in fundamentalist Christianity.
Yeah.
You have to be this way.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I would come home, from LSU, and I'd go home and be like, "Mom, I learned this in school," and she's like, "That's not right. That's not true." And I'm like, "Yes, it is. What are you talking about? Like, put on your academic lenses. Just because historically it says this doesn't mean you can't believe it. But yeah. So
That's funny. It's conversation. I'd like to be a fly on the wall with those conversations
me
between you
and
and your
my,
mom.
I think it was about Mary Magdalene. She was
Oh.
like, "Oh, she was a prostitute." I was like, "No, she wasn't." Like that was just the Catholic Church saying whatever. That's a conversation I would love to do with you. Is talk about the Catholic Church and the history of it.
That
That
would
is the
be
most
interesting.
interesting topic to me.
You might be more versed in that than I am.
I think because
So-
I went to a Catholic school, so I saw it firsthand of being like, this is the truth. And then I went to like college,
Yeah.
and you got to see the transformation of Jesus dying, being resurrected, and then what people did with it, and then what the Roman Empire did with it. And then from then on it went,
Yeah.
Whereas like Catholics are like, this is the first
we're the church Jesus founded.
No,
we
there
gave you the
were
Bible.
hundreds of varieties of Christianity.
Yeah.
And if you look at a map, my professor would give me a map, and there was like all of these different branches, and then it split off to Catholicism. And then all these ancient Christianities are just bulldozed over by Catholicism. But, when I talk to Catholics...
Bulldozed over.
They are.
That's a great way to say it.
Yeah, like the Gnostics and Marcionites and all that.
Yeah, so I'm fascinated with your knowledge of those kinds of things because my knowledge of early church history, especially Catholicism, is everything that I heard in the Baptist realm is all polemic. It's all against the Catholics.
Right? Well, yeah, they're Protestant.
So like I can't give them a fair shake.
Yeah.
Like, I'm afraid that even now, even if I knew some of the facts, like I wouldn't be able to give them a fair shake because I always saw it against.
Yeah.
I got to be against the Catholics.
Yeah,
That's what I always thought.
Yeah.
Which brings up an interesting question that people ask me a lot. They're like, where should I go? How do I find a good church? And most of the time people are asking, they're looking for a church that believes correctly.
Ugh.
So now I've kind of moved away from that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not so much that they believe correctly. It's that scaffold out how you want your growth to go. And then think about, where can I go to grow my next level or two,
Right.
whatever that is,
Yeah.
and can I do that there? And so I have a friend. I just went and had coffee with her yesterday, and she's been getting edified in the Catholic Church, and she disagrees. She disagrees with a lot of the propositions, a lot of the beliefs, a lot of the moral stuff too. Just flat out disagrees with it, but finds it as a place where she can grow a little bit.
I love that.
Like she likes the rigidity and structure and tradition and the ritual.
Yeah.
Doesn't need the beliefs.
Yeah.
So kind of leaves those behind and uses that for what she needs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if you're looking for a church, it depends on what you need.
Yeah.
Because depending on where you're trying to go, maybe a Catholic church would be good for you for a few years. Maybe the Methodist church would be good for you.
Yeah. I looked into being Catholic. Or not looked into it, but I went to Catholic church for a while because I loved it. I loved the beauty of the church. It made me feel... Because Methodists are they're kind of like a watered-down Catholic. Extremely watered down. I mean, that's what my mom always says, but...
that's what the Baptists always said, too. Everybody else is a watered-down Catholic.
Yeah,
we even call the
true.
Southern Baptists. Independent Baptists called the Southern Baptist Convention, SBC.
Yeah.
We said it stood for Slowly Becoming Catholic.
I mean, it's where we all come from. It's where all the denominations come from. But I just loved the reverence of it. You walk in, you genuflect, you dress really, well. The church is just gorgeous, and I love the rituals. I have Catholic art on, my tattoos. Like, I love Catholicism. But not necessarily think that it's true. I mean...
Yeah, I get you. I totally get you. Like,
and I can't, it's funny, I feel like I have to explain myself. I was like, wait, who am I talking to?
Well, you might have to explain to some of the audience, but not to me. I get it. Like, there's enough signal in there. And I'll tell you this, too. Like, I started reading Richard Rohr.
I've heard of him.
A couple years ago. He's a Franciscan friar.
Yeah.
And so a lot of Catholics consider him to be a heretic. Baptists definitely consider him to be because he's a heretic twice if you're a Baptist. He's a heretic because he's Catholic, and then he's a heretic for all the other reasons that Catholics say he's a heretic. But he's got a lot of stuff on growth and transformation. And he has helped me to see Catholicism in kind of a different light. Not like I'm adopting their beliefs or anything, but like, I can understand why you would do that kind of thing. Like, I get that. I get that from that perspective. That kind of makes sense. I can see how you would do that. Yeah. But not just that, but it's not that aspect that I found most helpful, but that's just a byproduct of having read his stuff.
I've heard of him like a bunch of times. I'll have to read it.
Yeah.
I think the reason I feel so maybe drawn to the Catholic Church because I know its roots, which I think a lot of Catholics don't. They're told this one story and they're indoctrinated and they're like, I'm going to believe that as truth. And they don't do their research to see all the things that bled into it to make it that. And the parallels with the Roman Empire, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the fact that I know the history makes it a little bit more enticing to me. Not saying that, all Catholics don't know the history, but I don't know.
So when you said more enticing, you did this gesture like like it's drawing you.
Yes, it does.
Like
It draws me so much. And I wonder, too, if because when I was younger, I was around it all the time, too. Being in a Catholic school, we went to Mass, we went to the cathedral. It was a part of my childhood. And we're all kind of trying to get our childhood back in a sense, that childlike spirit.
Right, right.
So it's like maybe I've...
Except you convert and become as little children, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus says.
What does he say?
Except you convert and become as little children.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he says. So you're right. I
Yeah.
mean, we're all trying to refine our childhood.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, and so I'm like, maybe that's the pull to it, you know?
Yeah, I feel a similar pull. I don't know if it's like, I know that there's no room for growth in fundamental Baptist backgrounds. You
Right.
can't grow there. Okay,
Yeah.
it's like
You've been there, done that.
Fowler sliced everything up into 6 stages, and the Baptist Church goes no higher than 3. Any version
Yeah.
of it. So like, you gotta, if there's going to be an affordance for growth, it can't be there. It's
Yeah.
got to be somewhere else. And a lot of people are talking about Eastern Orthodox Church, and a lot of people, and then
Okay.
I happen to know some people who are Eastern Orthodox and who are Catholic, who I would consider to be personally advanced beyond this stage 3
Yeah.
thing that all the other places seem to be stuck in. So I'm like, not that I believe necessarily the propositions of what these places say, but maybe that tradition can help. Maybe it's a place you can grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it can afford the growth you need.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's, so I'm like
Yeah.
thinking about that.
Yeah. I didn't even realize how drawn to it I was, you know. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty interesting.
I think it makes me think about the divinity of it more anyway. But
Well,
yeah.
my friend is trying to get me to come to Catholic church with her, so
Come with me.
Yeah.
I haven't been in so long, but I went to St. Joseph's downtown
yeah.
a few times.
And we live right here by St. George's.
Oh, I've never even been there.
Yeah, I went there for a
Yeah.
wedding.
Oh, nice.
And it was
Is
really
it pretty?
cool. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like the cathedrals in Europe or anything, but it's
Oh,
beautiful.
Yeah. And I love, like when I travel, I love looking at
I-
cathedrals.
But when I was
Fascinating.
what struck me during the wedding was like, when I was a Baptist, I would have been against some things. Like,
Yeah.
he takes the priest took the wedding rings, the dude.
Yeah.
He took the wedding rings, right? And I forget exactly how he did this, but he had something like a I don't know, like a wheat wafer kind of thing. It has some leaves and branches on it. And so he dips this thing in holy water
Mm-hmm.
and then sprinkles them on the rings, right?
Yeah.
So like a stage 2, stage 3 magical thinking person would be like one of 2 things. Either, oh, he's putting the holy magic on the rings and that's going to keep the marriage together.
Yeah.
Or a Baptist would be like, that's so stupid, that doesn't do anything.
That's demonic.
But then later on, I can see that like just the ritual of it, just nothing magical is happening, but just having that memory of the priest sprinkling holy
Yeah.
water on the wedding rings would make me remember that my vows and my wedding and my spouse and all of that
Yeah.
ties back to something very holy and profound. And that ritual would make me see it. So every time I would put on my wedding ring, after I saw that water, I would remember that ritual, and I would remember that this union is somehow connected back to God somehow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's
So,
so,
like,
that's
so-
so awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful to me now.
Yeah.
I don't attribute magical thinking to it, but it's a beautiful ritual that I think, if seen in the right way, can add to somebody's quality
Yeah.
of life.
Absolutely.
And sense of meaning and connectedness. And,
Same with the Eucharist.
Yeah.
You know, even before I came here, I was thinking about transubstantiation. I was like, not true. Like, I was just kind of trying to debunk it.
True.
But after hearing you say that story, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, thought of taking Jesus in, you know, ingesting it, having him in you, and then going down and praying while, you know, he's, you know, you're in his presence. It's like, that's a beautiful thing. Even if you don't believe that is actually Jesus' body.
right. The
like
ritual
the whole-
is
yeah.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the criticisms Richard Rohr has. He says,
The transubstantiation.
no, not that. He doesn't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
What he says is, I forget, he calls the number out. Like Catechism number 16 tells you God is everywhere. And then the whole rest of the catechism is essentially telling you he's not. You know, like
You're like,
now he's only in this wafer and in here, but he's not in the pew in front of me or anywhere. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's
yeah.
like they spend the whole rest of the catechism telling you he's not. So it's like he points out these kinds of little contradictions. He's
Yeah.
like, if God's everywhere, and God is
That's why
everywhere.
they think he's a heretic, because he's pointing at their, they're just what's the word called? Just their inconsistencies.
Yeah, and he points out that Jesus criticized Judaism,
Yeah.
and he's like, some of the greatest religious minds, they criticize the tradition from which they came,
Yeah.
and point out the inconsistencies and flaws
That's
in
so
it.
true, Martin Luther.
Which is, that's what you should do.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we should be
Absolutely.
doing, is criticizing the traditions from which we came.
You can always think back and be like, how could this be better? How can I, we always talk about transformation, What can I do to kind of like move myself up to more self-actualizing?
So, yeah, my friend was asking me, she's like, I'm going to go to confirmation soon, and the priest was like, do you really believe that the body and blood of Jesus Christ is in this, the
Oh,
Eucharist?
that's a scary question.
And she's like, how, I don't know how to answer them. How would you
Yeah.
answer that? And I thought of Richard Rohr, and for the sake of and I said, isn't he everywhere?
That's a good question.
That's
a good answer.
How is he not there?
Yeah. That's a really good answer.
Talk about the real presence. I think it was framed in terms of the real presence of Christ.
Yeah.
So your catechism says God is everywhere. How is he
He was
not?
in the Eucharist before it was blessed by the priest.
Yeah, he's in that glass right
No.
there. He's in that chess game. He's in that trash can. Where
Yeah.
is he not?
Did you tell her to say that?
That's what I said.
Okay, good.
Back to
That's
her.
a
And she's like,
perfect
And she's
answer.
like, oh, I never thought about that.
I need to talk to her.
Like, yes.
I feel like we're the same, because I really wanted to be Catholic. And I remember I emailed somebody and I didn't get a response. I was just kind of like,
So listen,
gonna,
we had a group of people come together a few Friday nights ago. I say a few. I don't know. It's been like a month or two. Anyway, we're going to have another one soon. I'm going to set one up.
fun.
And we have several like growth-oriented people.
yeah.
She is coming to the next one. We're going to set it up to where she can be there. And I think Jordan and Cliff will be there, for volleyball.
Is it, what's his face's brother? Joey?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no way. I didn't know y'all were friends with them.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think I am.
Yeah.
I hope they
We're
think
just-
so too.
You know what I mean. Like, hang out outside of volleyball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
So, and then there's some other people that you haven't met yet.
Yeah.
And, so what we're going to try to do is start having, maybe once every 2 months or so, try to have a gathering of people who like these kind of conversations.
Oh,
And
wow.
we sit around and eat dinner and talk until
That's so special.
people start passing out.
Yeah. You can sleep here.
Yeah. We
Sleep
got a couple
over?
extra bedrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all really do have a great house to have sleepovers.
Oh, yeah. It's fun. We like it here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I would love to come. I would
We could-
really
we
love
could
to
hold
talk
up
to
a-
her.
We could hold a retreat here. Yeah.
That would be so cool.
We'll try to get that. I'll try to get that set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should
I'll
have a
try to get you
retreat
guys in
on
touch.
what it really means to be a Jesus follower. To love like Jesus.
Yeah, but it would be based on practices,
Right. Yeah.
just like a volleyball retreat would be.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So
We'll be
how do you-
long and James.
Yes. Yeah. Like how do you do Christianity?
Yeah.
Not what do you believe? How do you do it?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah.
And
That's such a good I'm going to take out of this conversation and plant seeds.
Speaking of conversation, that's one of my big beliefs is how do you do Christianity? Having non-rivalrous conversations like
Yes.
this is one of the ways to do Christianity.
Yeah.
Non-rivalrous dialogue.
Yeah. Not being like, you're wrong, I'm right. You're indoctrinated. Yeah.
That's all people do.
Yeah.
You about
Very
ready
true.
to wrap it up?
Yes, this was so fun. I really had...
Oh, it is. What time is it?
I cannot read
Is
that
it?
far.
Is it? Oh, it's 5:14. I thought it said 6:14.
Oh, wow.
We've been doing these for over 2 hours.
Still.
Over 2 hours. Seems like we
I-
just started.
I'm so intrigued to read the comments, see what
Yeah?
people say. Do you get excited to read them sometimes?
Sometimes, but
It's like, I just want to see,
the
like...
problem is this. You're so good at letting me interrupt you. I feel
No,
bad.
don't feel bad.
You experience negative emotions more than you do positive ones.
It's always
So
good
if you
here.
read 8 positive comments and 2 negative ones, you'll go home with the negative ones.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
It's almost like I don't need to. I just wanted to see what the biggest takeaway when it came to a religious aspect that the viewers got.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah, and then oftentimes, I don't know how this chat went.
Mm-hmm.
You can see them here. This guy here, he's funny. He's always cracking
Jamie?
jokes. Jamie Russell, he's always cracking jokes, and they're pretty funny. God will forgive you for being wrong and honest.
That's so funny.
Jesus wants to do jujitsu with you. There you go. Israel. So, and sometimes they just start talking to each other.
Yeah.
And it's like just distracting. They're not even talking about what we're talking about.
Oh, the eschaton. Oh my gosh,
What?
that was a word that I learned in the Orthodox would call this theosis, the eschaton.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah,
moment
yeah.
that, if you're still on the chat, if the moment God comes down and does something, I can't remember, but which is a key word from like school.
And then theosis too. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is,
I need glasses so bad.
well, these comments will pop back up in about 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
After we quit this session, they'll kind of go away for a minute, and then they will be available again on this video link.
Oh, nice.
So you can go back and read them all.
Yeah. If you're still listening, I want to know what's one thing
Somebody said.
in a religious aspect you pulled from.
So what I'm trying to do is people said I don't know.
I can't lie. This conversation is wild.
The point, all we're trying to do is just have the conversation to demonstrate how a non-rivalrous conversation goes.
Yeah.
That we just think is interesting and isn't trying to point somebody to a particular ideology. You don't have to
Yeah.
see it this way in
I
order
love
to talk
that.
to me. You know.
Well, and then it's like, oh, I never thought about that. I'm going to take that and put it in my little toolbox
Right.
of religion, my religious
Yeah.
toolbox.
Then maybe there's some noise in this conversation, and maybe there's some
Yeah.
signal. Who knows? We're not claiming to have anything other than a good time.
It was a very fun time.
Yeah. There's quite a few comments here,
I know. Excited.
and they'll be there.
Into things.
You about ready to call it quits?
Absolutely.
All right.
I had so much fun.
I appreciate you coming. Hopefully we can do it again.
Absolutely. We need a Catholic topic is next.
Yeah.
Love
Maybe
it.
we can bring in my friend.
Oh, I
And the
would
three of us could do it.
love to.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And then maybe an expert.
Yes.
I
Oh
could
my
get a
gosh,
third
my
microphone.
professor.
Your professor.
He is a well of knowledge.
That would be
Insane.
great.
He would love to.
I want to meet
I think
your
he's on a
professor.
sabbatical. You would love him. He's so great.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Brad, if you're listening, you rock.
Yeah.
I
let's
told
come
him
on.
I sent him the link, but I think he's,
All right, guys. Thanks for
Have a good
watching.
day.
Thanks for being in the chat. And
See you later.